Chapter 650. When Fang Yan walked to the door of the ward, he saw that Baldy had already woken up. He leaned on the pillow at the head of the bed and told Wang Chong and Li Jun about his mental state when he was beaten. It's not that I'm boasting to you, but with my physique and strength, wouldn't subduing that brat be a piece of cake? Baldy gestured non-stop with his hands, looking like a peerless expert. You two must have questions to ask. Since I'm so powerful, why didn't I fight back when I was attacked? Even if I didn't fight back, I could have easily dodged his attack, right? To tell you the truth, I deliberately wanted to test the power of the bottle with my head. Are you out of your mind? Wang Chong said bluntly. Slap. Baldy slapped Wang Chong's head and angrily scolded. Brat, you're the one who's out of your mind? What do you know? Baldy pointed to his head wrapped in gauze and said, Do you know why I'm called Baldy? Li Jun grinned and said, Who doesn't know that? Because you don't have hair on your head. Or is it because you shaved your legs that's why you're called Baldy? Correct. Baldy wanted to slap Li Jun, but Li Jun cleverly dodged. Baldy was very dissatisfied with Li Jun's reaction and said, Do you know why I don't have hair? It's because I met a strange person when I was a child. He felt that my bones were clear and my aptitude was outstanding, so he secretly taught me a magical kung fu, Iron Head. It was because I was too engrossed in cultivation that I lost my hair. Did you eat lotus seeds when you were a child? Other children used their mouths to peel lotus seeds, but I used my head to hit it. My God, all the lotus seeds split in half. Isn't it more convenient to bite with your mouth? Isn't it strange to hit with your head? Wang Chong put forward his opinion. Baldy thought about it and was a little exasperated. He said, Didn't I say it before? I did it to practice. You're so powerful, how did you get knocked down by a bottle of wine? Wang Chong asked another question in his heart. How could I have been knocked down by a wine bottle? Didn't I drink too much? When the bottle hit me, I was dizzy from the alcohol. Baldy explained seriously. Didn't you see that I broke the bottle? I only saw the wine bottle break your head open, Wang Chong said. Baldy grabbed the pillow behind him and threw it at him. He scolded angrily. Bastard, how can you talk to your leader like this? Fang Yan was amused. He knocked on the door with his finger to remind them that he was here. He walked towards Baldy and said with a smile, Baldy, how do you feel? Are you all right? Nothing. What can happen to me? Baldy saw Fang Yan come in and said happily, Why are you here? Oh, I remember. You also went to Suki's birthday party. She told you that I was here, right? She waited for you the whole night and I couldn't bear to see her like that. Luckily you came. You know how to sympathize with others. Looks like you're completely sober. You said that you practiced the Iron Head skill? Then I'll find a few more bottles and smash them on your head. Let everyone see what level your Iron Head skill is at. No, Baldy quickly refused and said, I can only use it once a day. If I use it more than that, it won't work. He was still able to joke around with everyone. It seemed like the Baldy's injury was not a big deal. Fang Yan also felt relieved. Wang Chong stood in front of Fang Yan and said, Mr. Fang, the doctor did a comprehensive examination on Baldy. They said that Baldy's injury is not serious. It's just some superficial wounds and he will be fine after a few days of rest. There's no concussion or other abnormalities. Mr. Liu was here before and he personally apologized to Baldy and said that all of Baldy's medical expenses would be covered by him. Oh, he also signed a check for Baldy on the spot. $100,000. That's a huge sum of money. Fang Yan nodded to show that he understood. From LV Zhonghong's attitude when he saw him just now, Fang Yan already knew who he was. It was only right for him to do something to make up for their relationship before he came. If he didn't do anything after knowing that he was Fang Yan, then this guy's IQ was really worrying. Fang Yan was not a generous man. Baldy took out the check from his pocket and said proudly, Look, $100,000. It's more than my annual salary. Tell me, is it worth it for me to take a bottle of beer? Fang Yan laughed and said, No matter how much money they give you, try not to do this kind of thing in the future. I know, Baldy said. He handed the check to Fang Yan and said, Give this money back to him. Why? Fang Yan looked at Baldy in confusion. I can't take this money, Baldy said. Baldy may not be rich, but I have a backbone. I took $100,000 from him after getting beaten up. What kind of person do you think I, Baldy, am? Clown. Fang Yan didn't reach out to take the check from Baldy. He looked at Baldy with deep eyes and said, Even if you don't want this money, you don't have to give it back to him. Take this money and buy a batch of books to fill up the school's library. What do you think? Baldy nodded happily and said, That's good. Good. I used to see students donating books to the school. I never thought that I, Baldy, would have such a proud day. Can I write my name on every book? Of course you can. That's your right, Fang Yan said. I'm going to be famous. Baldy imagined how moved the students would be when they opened the book and saw his name on the title page. The smile on his face became brighter. Mr. Fang, you really are my good brother. Fang Yan smiled and said, You're also my good brother. Baldy's face turned red. He stared at Fang Yan and said, I'm just saying. I know you're not the same kind of person as us. I never thought I could be your good brother. Fang Yan patted Baldy's shoulder and said, If you say so, then so be it. Fang Yan knew why Baldy was hit with the bottle. If he wanted to, he could have been treated differently. Fang Yan was grateful to Baldy and liked Baldy. He never made friends based on their status or wealth. He only looked at their appearance. As long as they weren't as good-looking as him, they could be his friend. Hoo-hoo. Baldy happily jumped into Fang Yan's arms. He hugged Fang Yan's waist tightly and said in a choked voice, Can you ask Headmaster Lu to change my position? I want to be the dean. Impossible. Fang Yan shook off his hands in disgust. Yanjing International Airport. Huaqing was still wearing a windbreaker, but Yanjing was already required to wear a sweater and a scarf. Winter always came earlier in Yanjing than in the south. Looking out through the window, the sky was gloomy, just like the usual gray color. 3 years ago, when they returned to Yanjing, both sides were waiting at the door of the cabin. Later there was a storm. The Maple Leaf Club forced Fang Yixing to abdicate and Fang Yixing died in battle. What would happen this time? Fang Yan just wanted to ask for an explanation for himself quietly. When Fang Yan came out of the VIP passage, a tall man in black strode forward and hugged Fang Yan in his arms. Fang Yan stood there and didn't move, letting him hug him tightly, but he said with annoyance, When did you learn the etiquette of foreigners? Look, other than those young lovers who haven't seen each other for a long time, who else would hug someone like you? Those who don't know might think we're gay. What's that saying again? When you don't need me, I'm your friend. When you need me, I can be your woman. If you like it, I'll wash the back door tonight. Li Xiaotian smiled obscenely. Forget it. I'm not interested in that at all. You should give it to someone else, Fang Yan said. Where are the others? They're waiting for you. They're waiting to welcome you tonight. Li Xiaotian took Fang Yan's suitcase and said, To try out my new car. Looks like Boss Li's business is doing well. Fang Yan said with a smile. Hey, it's all thanks to you, Li Xiaoan said mysteriously. Thanks to me? I helped you again. Have you forgotten? Where did you meet Luqi the other day? I know, Maple Leaf Club. Fang Yan smiled and said, Luo Mingan is helping you. Otherwise, we brothers would have had a hard time, Li Xiaotian said with lingering fear. Do you know what it means when the city gate is on fire? The fish in the moat will be affected? That night we challenged Jiang Junling. Although we won in the end and embarrassed Jiang Junling, my brother was in big trouble. Most of the connections he made in Yanjing were gone, and all his previous business partners cut off contact with him. When he was about to end his business and go back to Swallow Dock, Maple Leaf Clubhouse came out and introduced a few businesses to us. Seeing that Maple Leaf Clubhouse was doing business with us, those friends and business partners who had cut off contact with my brother took the initiative to come back. This King world. This is a necessary stage in life. It's just picking a side. It's not easy for anyone to live. Fang Yan sighed and said, Tell them that I won't be staying in Yanjing tonight. Get someone to send me back to Swallow Dock. That won't do, Li Xiaodan was not willing. I've already arranged the banquet tonight and I've called everyone. If I let you go, won't they tear me apart? Wait until I'm done with my family matters, then I'll go to Yanjing and have a drink with you guys, Fang Yan said with a smile. No, that's in the future. Tonight is tonight. Fang Yan stopped and looked at Li Xiaoan. You don't think I'll come back this time? The smile on Li Xiaotian's face froze. He looked at Fang Yan and said, What if we fall out? Sir is no longer sir. Chapter 651. Mr. Fang was no longer Mr. Fang. Then what kind of person did he become? Of course, Mr. Fang was still Mr. Fang. He was not a shapeshifter who could change into another person by touching someone's skin. But was Mr. Fang still the same Mr. Fang? What was Mr. Fang like? He was low-key, self-restrained, impartial, strict with his family and protective of others. He loved every young man in Swallow Dock as his own child. Every spring festival, the children of Swallow Dock would visit Mr. Fong from door to door, and Mr. Fong would tell them their strengths and weaknesses as well as some encouraging words. He was a benevolent elder but also a harsh parent. He was the teacher of Swallow Dock. However, Mr. Fong's disciple Bai Xiu appeared in the camp to kill Fong Yen. Was Bai Xiu's position the same as Mr. Fong's? Was Bai Xiu's choice the same as Mr. Fong's? What Bai Xiu did, was it also what teacher wanted to do? Was Bai Xiu just a chess piece of Mr. Fong, a substitute that Mr. Fong placed outside? Li Xiaotian's worries were not unnecessary, and so were the other brothers. If Fong Yen went back and fell out with Mr. Fong, and if Mr. Fong was no longer the Mr. Fong in their hearts, then what should Fong Yen do? What should the Fong family do? With Master's prestige in Swallow's Dock, there was no one who could contend against him. Mr. Fong only needed to say one word, and he didn't even need to do anything himself. Those who trusted him, those who protected him, and those who were related to the interests of Swallow Dock would rush to trample Fong Yen and the Fong family behind Fong Yen into mud. Fong Yixing died in battle, the old drunkard disappeared, and the Fong family was only supported by Fong Yen alone. Even his two uncles might not have the courage to stand up when the Fong family was in trouble. Even if they did, the families behind them would never stand up for them. What about the Yi family? Yi Ro was his little girlfriend, and the three tigers of the Yi family were like the sun at noon. Would they be willing to stand up for him? In that case, how much power could Fong Yen rely on? Li Xiaotian looked at Fong Yen with a face full of concern and said, "It's not that I don't want you to go back, I just think this matter needs to be carefully considered. We have to consider all the aspects of the matter thoroughly. What is the best and worst outcome? Can we accept it?" Fong Yen looked at Li Xiaotian and said with a smile, "It's me who can accept it, not you." Li Xiaotian's expression changed greatly. "Fong Huohua, don't blame me for falling out with you if you keep talking like that. It's fine if you're always joking around with us. We know that you're naturally cheap, so no one will stoop to your level. You're still joking about this? What do you mean by, can I accept that it's not you? What does that mean? Do you dare to say this in front of them? Let's see if the big guy will swing his arm and whip you." What's wrong? Now that he had become the boss of a small place like Flower City, he wanted to cut ties with his brothers? Don't worry, we have food and drinks in Yanjing. We won't go to Flower City to suck up to you. Fong Yen knew that Li Xiaotian and the others had good intentions, and it was precisely because of this that he needed to push them to a safe area. Fong Yen looked at Li Xiaoan and said, "How long have we known each other?" Li Xiaotian thought for a while and said with a straight face, "I don't know. We've known each other since we were kids. Yeah. When I met you, you were still naked. You make it sound like you've never worn diapers." Li Xiaoan blushed and said embarrassedly, "I've never worn diapers. You know, the old drunkard is a respectable person. He thinks it's very undignified for a man to always dangle his penis outside. Does it count if you bathe in the river naked? Does it count if you go up to the tree to dig for bird eggs and get your pants torn by the thorns? Have you ever been naked? Have you never walked your bird?" Fong Yen smiled and said, "Look, I've seen your bird and you've seen my naked butt. We're really honest with each other now. I understand what you guys are thinking and I appreciate your kindness. However, this is my problem and also my family's problem. Only I can bear the responsibility." Li Xiaotian looked at Fong Yen with a serious expression and said, "If something happened to me, if something happened to Yuan Qian, if something happened to Zidan and the others, would you pretend you didn't see it?" "Of course not." Fong Yen smiled and said, "Your problem is my problem. Then why are you pushing us brothers aside now that you're in trouble?" "Because it's dangerous," Fong Yen said with a serious expression. "Xiaotian, you said it yourself. What if master is not master? What if I don't get a fair treatment for my complaint? What if I fall out with master? What if master says that I'm Bai Xiu's murderer? Li Xiaoan, what will you do then?" "Whatever you do, I'll do," Li Xiaotian said firmly. "If you say run, we'll run. If you say do, we'll do. If the person who kills me is your father, your uncle, your brother, or your cousin, at that time will you do what I say?" "That's impossible." "Why not?" Fong Yen looked at Li Xiaotian with a gentle smile. At this moment he was like a stubborn child who knew he was wrong but still refused to admit defeat. He said, "You know, this is very likely to happen. With master's prestige in Swallow Fort, he can decide a person's life or death with a word." Li Xiaotian's expression changed. His eyes turned a frightening red as if they were filled with blood. He said in a hoarse but firm voice, "I know you're wronged, I know you're the victim. If it's really as you said, if my father, uncle, brother or cousin wants to kill you, then I'll stand in front of you and let them kill me first. If they want you to die, then they'll let me die first." Li Xiaoyang, Fang Yan held back the tears that were about to come out of his eyes and shouted, "Don't you King understand human language? I've said it before, this has nothing to do with you. Fang Huohua, can you King speak human language? How did we swear when we formed the Flower Pretty Men's team? Brothers should eat meat and drink water, use scales to divide gold and silver and share weal and woe together. When we're in trouble you're willing to stand up for us. When you're in trouble you want us to be cowards. Are you scolding us or yourself?" Li Xiaotian's emotions became even more intense. He looked like he would beat Fang Huohua up if he dared to refute. As he spoke, he forcefully threw the suitcase in his hand. The two brothers stared at each other, lightning flashing in their eyes. Neither of them would admit defeat. After a long time, Fang Yan sighed softly and said, "Now that you're ugly as the captain of Swallow Dock's Flower Pretty Men's team, I expel you from the team." Fang Huohua CKU. Li Xiaoyang was really ready to hit someone this time. He rushed over and swung his fist at Fang Yan's face. Fang Yan turned around to avoid his attack. He ran over to pick up his suitcase from the ground, patted the dust off it and said, "Who did it offend that you're treating it like this?" Li Xiaotian's punch missed and he had no interest in continuing the fight. He said, "Listen to me on this matter and I'll arrange your itinerary." Fang Yan pulled his suitcase up and said, "Originally I wanted to borrow your car to go back to Swallow Dock. If you dare say that again I'll get angry. I know you won't agree." Fang Yan looked at Li Xiaoyan and said, "Then drive me back." "What about them?" Li Xiaotian asked. "There's no need to inform them," Fang Yan said. "You can make decisions for yourself but you can't make decisions for others. Xiaoyan, everyone has a family and it's not easy. If I could, I would never want to stand on the opposite side of Mr. But I have a reason to do that." "You don't have to do that. Just now you asked me if I know that the fish in the moat will suffer when the city is on fire. Now I'm asking you, do you know that? If something happens to you, you won't be the only one who will suffer." "You're overthinking," Li Xiaotian said. "You're overthinking," Fang Yan said. Li Xiaotian walked over and took the suitcase from Fang Yan's hands. "Let's go. The car is in the parking lot." Li Xiaotian drove a black Bentley with a bright white bee in the middle of the angel wings. Fang Yan opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat. He said with a smile, "It seems that Maple Leaf Club is very supportive of you brothers. This car is not bad." Li Xiaotian chuckled and threw the suitcase into the trunk. He opened the door of the driver's seat and sat in. "Do you know who the big boss behind Maple Leaf Club is?" "I don't know." Fang Yan shook his head with a serious expression. "Who is it?" "Pretend. Keep pretending." Li Xiaotian looked at him with disdain. "The big boss of Maple Leaf Club is the little princess of the Qin family, Qin Yitian. It was founded by Qin Yitian when she was still a minor. The 3 people in charge of the club were all hired by her. Although they are all famous ladies in Yanjing, they are still a long way from being compared to Qin Yitian. Also, if you dare to say that you don't know who Qin Yitian is, I'll break your nose with one punch." Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "What does this have to do with me?" "I heard that you two are close." "She is my student," Fang Yan said. "I am a knowledgeable teacher and she is a smart student, so our relationship is not bad." "Yes. So good that the smart student is going to take the bullet for the knowledgeable teacher?" Li Xiaotian said with a smile. Fang Yan looked at Li Xiaotian in surprise and asked in a low voice, "How did you know about this?" "Someone deliberately spread the news." Li Xiaotian's smile faded and he said, "Now many people in Yanjing are talking about this matter. Qin Yitian is facing great pressure and some worse rumors." "What?" Fang Yan asked with an embarrassed expression. "Some people say she is a mistress." Crack. The black disc that Fang Yan was about to put into the car stereo was crushed by him. Chapter 652. Of course, Qin Yitian was under pressure. Who is Qin Yitian? She was the little princess of the Qin family, a famous socialite in Yanjing. Some people said that she was the most popular girl in Yanjing, and some said that she was the most beautiful girl in Yanjing. With all the glory, it was not an exaggeration to say that she was the most favored girl in Yanjing. Who is Fang Yan? He was a teacher at Rosefinch Secondary. No, he was a security guard now. He was a shareholder of Chaoyan Technology, a shareholder of Longtu Group and a rising star in Huaqing. Even so, in the eyes of countless people, Fang Yan was still not good enough for Qin Yitian. All the good flowers are taken by pigs. A flower stuck in cow dung. A fairy married to a cow herd. When Qin Yitian was still a student, he was willing to take a bullet for his teacher. If that was the case, what was the relationship between Qin Yitian and Fang Yan? Fang Yan. This was the most dazzling name in Yanjing recently and also the name that was cursed the most. The reason why a goddess was that she should be high up and respected by everyone. If someone tried to pull the goddess down from her pedestal, they would naturally be cursed and attacked by countless people. Qin Yitian was a mistress? This news made Fang Yan angry. After he broke Li Xiaotian's disc, the anger in his heart dissipated, and his emotions gradually calmed down. Qin Yitian took a bullet for Fang Yan. This incident happened in Huaqing. Moreover, after Qin Yitian was in trouble, the Qin family immediately sent someone to pick her up. She disappeared for a long time, and because of that incident she even left her identity as a student and never returned to Rosefinch Secondary. That was an attack and very few people knew about it. Other than himself and Qin Yitian, there were only the people from the Qin family. So the question was, who was the one who leaked the news? What were they trying to achieve by doing this? There must be a reason behind this abnormality. Fang Yan had no choice but to investigate the truth. That's my limited edition Teresa Ting. Li Xiaotian's heart was about to break when he saw Fang Yan break his precious disc. But when he thought of how bad Fang Yan's mood was, he comforted him and said, "Forget it. Anyway, I've heard it countless times, so I'll just treat it as its fate." Fang Yan looked at Li Xiaotian and asked, "When did these rumors start?" "A week ago," Li Xiaotian said. "I've heard about your close relationship with Qin Yitian a long time ago, but I thought it was a rumor deliberately spread by someone. How good could the relationship between a teacher and a student be? It wasn't until recently that the matter of Qin Yitian taking a bullet for you was exposed that it attracted the attention and discussion of countless people. At that time I even called Zhou Xian and praised you for secretly seducing the little princess of the Qin family. If you could marry her, we wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of our lives. Then, someone said that you already had a girlfriend and that Qin Yitian was the mistress, and the direction of public opinion began to change. That's when I realized that things weren't so right. Then why didn't you tell me?" Fang Yan said angrily. "You guys were all waiting in Yanjing. Didn't anyone call me or send me a message? Didn't you encounter that incident just now? I know you have a lot of things to do in Huaqing, so I didn't want to bother you with these groundless rumors. I talked to Luo Mingan of the Maple Leaf Society about this, and she also said that they would take care of it. She told us not to let this trouble you. She also said that this was Miss Qin's idea." "Yitian," Fang Yan sighed softly and said, "She's too independent. She always thinks that she can solve everything by herself. It's the reputation of being a mistress. It's a little too vicious for a woman," Li Xiaotian said with an unfriendly expression. "These people are really vicious. Miss Qin is smart, capable, talented and very kind. Those who have interacted with her all think that she's a very easy girl to get along with. They can't attack Miss Qin's talent, so they can only attack Miss Qin's character. Lowly and despicable means." Fang Yan shook his head and said coldly, "They're not only attacking Yitian, they're also attacking the Qin clan. Yitian is the most eye-catching member of the Qin clan these past few years. If her reputation is damaged, the Qin clan will lose face as well. That's strange. In Yanjing City, who would dare to pull the whiskers of the Qin family? I don't dare to say about other places, but Yanjing City is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. There are countless powerful people. It's normal for someone to stand up and give the Qin family a hard time. You have a target in mind?" "I only have a few suspects," Fang Yan said. "No matter what their purpose is, it's still something that makes people unhappy. Put it aside for now. You have more important things to do now," Li Xiaotian said as he skillfully drove the car through the traffic. "There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Those people will eventually jump out on their own." "That's the only thing we can do now," Fang Yan said. "If there's any news in Yanjing in the future, inform me immediately. Miss Qin told us not to bother you with this kind of thing, but you're telling us to inform her. Who are we listening to?" "Nonsense," Fang Yan said angrily. "Who's your brother?" But our company is completely protected by the Maple Leaf Club. If I offend Miss Qin, don't you have any pride as a man? Relying on a woman to live off a woman, how could you do such a thing? Li Xiaotian was amused by Fang Yan and said, there are 6 billion people in the world. If any one of these 6 billion people said this to me, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable at all. Why do I feel that it's so funny when you say this to me? Who's managing Chaoyan technology for you? Without Lu Chaoga helping you do so many things behind the scenes, helping you bring Chaoyan technology to the scale and achievements it has today, would you be so successful in watching? Would Lanshan Valley and Lu Shu, the money-minded guys, be willing to cooperate with you? Would they be willing to listen to young Master Fang's orders and follow your lead? If there's a ranking, all the men in the world added together wouldn't be as happy as you are to live off a woman, right? You're definitely the king of living off a woman. I've also sacrificed a lot, Fang Yan said. Sacrificed what? My body? Li Xiaotian sneered. The 3 years that Chaoyan has developed the fastest were the 3 years when you were mourning at Swallow Dock. Li Xiaotian realized that he had touched on Fang Yan's taboo, so he quickly changed the topic and said, let's go back to Swallow Dock along the original route. It's okay. Fang Yan understood Li Xiaotian's intention and said, I don't know what happened, but when my sword pierced through Bai Xiu's body, the boulder I was carrying on my back suddenly collapsed, and the hatred in my heart also disappeared. I won't be unable to sleep at night anymore, and I won't be unable to eat without tasting food anymore. I've lived with hatred for too long, and now I've let go of the burden. Li Xiaotian sighed in relief and said, that's good. You don't know that you were a monster in the past. We had to be careful when we talked to you, afraid that we might step on one of your nerves again. Fang Yan smiled but did not say anything. Bai Xiu was dead, so would the hatred of his father's murder be over? Mister, what kind of attitude would you take? How are you going to explain the fact that your disciple is a murderer? The car drove out of the airport highway, and then went along the gravel road that Fang Yan often used to go back to the village. That was the only road from Swallow Dock to downtown Yanjin. Xianxia of the army once stopped on this road and used his feet to step on the black soil in the rape fields. Fang Yixing used to fight with people on this road, and in the end his blood stained the ground and became a handful of soil in Swallow Dock. There were also many people that Fang Yan knew and people that he didn't know. There were people that Fang Yan cared about, but there were even more people that he didn't care about. They either walked out to a new beginning, or walked back to the road back home. Looking at the scenery on the side of the road, he thought of countless things of the past. He thought of his father. He simply thought of him as a son. If he was still alive, if he knew that he was going home, would he pretend that he didn't mean to go to the door and look around? Would he have urged his mother again and again to call the little bastard and ask him where he had gone? Unfortunately, he was no longer here. They were separated by life and death and could never meet again. There was a twitching pain in his heart as if someone was trying to cut a small hole in it with a blunt knife. Li Xiaotian saw that Fang Yan's eyes were full of worry and his expression was gloomy. He wanted to say something to liven up the atmosphere, but when the words came to his mouth he found that it was not appropriate to say anything at this time. Since he wanted to be his father, then let him think about it. Virum, the strong roar of the engine came. Li Xiaotian looked at the rearview mirror and then grinned. Fang Yan's mind was finally pulled back. He glanced at the black Land Rover that was rushing over at lightning speed and said, the guy driving the car looks a little familiar. As soon as Fang Yan's voice fell, the Land Rover had rushed to the front, and was driving side by side with Li Xiaotian's Bentley. The road was not wide enough, so when the two cars ran side by side, they would run over the grass on the side of the road. The Land Rover's window opened and a familiar and friendly big chubby face appeared. Chapter 653. Yi Fengxing bared his teeth at Fang Yan and chuckled. You think you can get away like this? Let me tell you, before you even lift your butt, we already know what you're up to. I'll wait for you at the village entrance. Yi Fengxing stepped hard on the accelerator, and the Land Rover overtook the Bentley to the front. Another black Mercedes-Benz followed, driving side by side with the Bentley again. The Mercedes window rolled down. Wang Kaixin pointed at Fang Yan with a look that said, I'll deal with you later. Then he yelled at Li Shaoan, grandson, our brothers trusted you and sent you to fetch Fang Yan, but you didn't even say a word and ran away with your men. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Li Xiaotian explained with an obsequious smile. I don't have a choice, do I? You know Fang Yan's personality. He wanted to leave and I couldn't beat him. We tried to sneak away but we were still caught by you. Thankfully, the master was smart enough to install a tracking device on your car, or else we'd have to wait like idiots. Li Xiaotian was shaking with anger. If he wasn't busy driving, he would have jumped out to fight Wang Kaixian. He scolded, "Wang Kaixian, you bastard, how dare you install a tracking device on my car? We'll fight one-on-one later." "Fight one-on-one then? Why don't you prepare to fight all of us? We'll deal with you two later." Wang Kaixian cursed for a while before the Mercedes overtook them. Another Audi followed them. Xianxia smiled gently. She looked at Fang Yan and said, "Your business is our business." Then it was Ruan Jing's Volkswagen Golf. He followed behind the Bentley, but he kept honking at the luxury cars in front to express his dissatisfaction. Li Xiaotian, Yi Fengxing, Wang Kaixian, Qianyanqing, Ruan Jing, these were Fang Yan's childhood friends. Other than Zhu Xian, who had been training at Mo Bay for years, all of Fang Yan's good friends from Beijing were here. They knew that it was dangerous and difficult, but they were still willing to face it together with Fang Yan. With such friends, what was there to be dissatisfied with? Li Xiaoan cursed, "These bastards, do they have any respect for the law? How dare they install a tracking device on my car? Luckily I went to pick someone up. If I went to find a girl, they would know my whereabouts." "You really didn't tell them?" Fang Yan asked in disbelief. He didn't believe there was a tracking device. Li Xiaotian must have sent them a message when he was not paying attention. "Why would I do such a thing?" Li Xiaotian said. "I was wondering how they managed to catch up with us so quickly." Fang Yan stared at Li Xiaotian with a burning gaze and reached out to touch his neck. "What?" Li Xiaotian reached out to block. Fang Yan grabbed his wrist, causing the arm that he was blocking to temporarily lose the ability to move. Then she reached under his collar and took out a small black bug. "What's going on?" Fang Yan let go of Li Xiaotian's arm and placed the listening device in front of Li Xiaotian. "What is this?" "I don't know, it must be that bastard Wang Kaixian. He took advantage of me being unguarded and put this thing under my collar." Seeing that Fang Yan was still staring at him mockingly, Li Xiaotian knew that he could not hide it anymore. He had to confess to Fang Yan and said, "Actually, after we knew that you were coming back, we gathered for a small meeting. Everyone wanted to intercept you and at least keep calm before going to negotiate with Sir. We all think you're not calm enough right now. Or we could all pretend that it never happened, and that the gentleman wouldn't ask and we wouldn't say anything, we wouldn't lose anything anyway. Wasn't Bai Xiu, that poser, stabbed to death by your sword? And then we think you'll definitely do what you've decided and we might not be able to stop you. Besides, we know that you don't want us to get involved. But we know you so well. Although you're usually quite annoying, you've never been careless when it comes to these things. So, they came up with this idea. They sent me here to pick someone up and installed a bug on me. The bug is connected to the equipment on them so they can hear everything we say. If I can stop you, we'll all eat and drink tonight and never mention anything about going back to negotiate with Sir. If we can't, we'll all go back with you to seek justice from Sir. Have you thought about the consequences?" Fang Yan sighed softly. "We've thought about it," Li Xiaotian said seriously. "We've thought about it for a few days. Fang Yan, don't try to persuade us anymore. It'll be meaningless and seem distant." Fang Yan thought for a long time and said, "I owe you this time." "Damn, do we really need to talk about this between brothers?" "Z." The bug in Fang Yan's hand made a noise. Li Xiaotian smiled and said, "Press that red, it can connect to my car's Bluetooth. You can hear what they're saying." As Fang Yan pressed the red dot, the simple-minded Yi Fengxing's voice was heard. "Brothers, we need to keep our mouths shut. Don't let Fang Yan know that we've already planned this." "That's right, that's why. We need to beat Li Xiaotian up and we can't hold back," Wang Kaixian shouted. "Wang Kaixian." Li Xiaotian gritted his teeth and shouted, "I've already told Fang Yan everything, just wait for your deaths." The radio channel went silent. "Did Fang Yan hear us?" Yi Fengxing asked in a timid voice. "I heard you," Fang Yan said with a smile. "Li Xiaoan, you traitor." Everyone began to curse Li Xiaotian, blaming him for selling them out without even saying a word. A row of 6 cars was driving on the road from Yanjing to Swallow Dock, chasing each other and trying to overtake each other. The national highway leading to Swallow Dock was rarely so busy. The appearance of these young people immediately woke up the ancient and quiet village with a long history. Swallow Dock, the swallows have returned. Feng Hui was in a bad mood recently, because his King Kong eagle didn't argue with him anymore. In the past, whenever he said something, the Vajra eagle would quarrel with him. Both sides would quarrel back and forth. But now the King Kong Eagle didn't argue with him or even talk to him. The King Kong Eagle didn't say anything and neither did Feng Hui. The King Kong Eagle stood on its stand and stared at Feng Hui. Feng Hui sat in his wheelchair and stared back at the King Kong Eagle. One big and one small, one man and one animal silently staring at each other. The scene was strange and unsettling. Not only Lu Wan but Feng Yan's aunt's families were also worried. For the past 3 years the white-haired man had sent off his black-haired friend. Although the old man had never said a harsh word or shed a single tear after the funeral, he had indeed lost a lot of weight. Even his trademark hearty laughter had disappeared. Lu Wan came over with a bowl of ginseng soup. She put it on the table in front of Feng Hui and said with a smile, "Dad, have a bowl of soup. You didn't eat much at noon. Have a bowl of soup first and dinner will be ready soon. I asked them to make your favorite corn paste and sorghum cake." Feng Hui looked at Lu Wan lovingly and waved his hand. "Take it away, I don't have an appetite. You've been sitting here for a long time. How about I ask Xiaoling to take you out for a walk?" "No." Feng Hui's gaze shifted back to the snow-white Vajra eagle and said, "I'll sit here and accompany this old fella of mine. I can feel that it's about to leave." "Dad," Lu Wan said with a trembling voice. Feng Hui looked at Lu Wan and said, "Don't worry about me, I'm fine. Logically speaking, a grandson avenged his son. Even if he died now it's nothing. But thinking about it he felt a little unwilling. The enemy hasn't come back and my grandson hasn't let me see my great-grandson. I can't die. So I still have to live and I still want to live." Lu Wan nodded and said, "Then you have to take care of yourself. How about drinking this bowl of soup first?" "I really don't have an appetite," Feng Hui said. "I don't have the mood to do anything. Drinking soup is superfluous." Feng Hui waved his hand and said, "Take it away, let them drink it. Don't eat it." Lu Wan sighed in her heart. With the old man's physical and psychological condition he probably couldn't hold on for long. Lu Wan was about to go out with the bowl of soup, but she bumped into a tall man. Feng Hui's eyes refocused on the King Kong Eagle and whispered, "Old friend, wait for me, I don't want to die yet. I have a disciple who went to the Arctic land and didn't come back and I have a grandson who hasn't let me see my great-grandson. You have to wait for me." A spoon was put in front of Feng Hui's mouth. The spoon was filled with fragrant ginseng soup. Feng Hui angrily said, "Lu Wan, I already said I don't have an appetite." Feng Hui turned around and saw the man who was feeding him the soup. He immediately beamed with joy. "Open your mouth," Feng Yan said. Feng Hui opened his mouth and Feng Yan sent the ginseng soup into the old man's mouth. The old man happily clicked his tongue and said, "This soup is delicious. If you think it's delicious then I'll feed you one bowl every day," Feng Yan said. Feng Hui looked up at Feng Yan and said, "You came back for justice?" "I'm back to seek justice," Feng Yan said. "I've prepared something for you," Feng Hui said. "What is it?" Feng Hui pointed at the mahogany bedside cabinet and said, "It's in there, I've written it, take it out." Feng Yan opened the cabinet and saw a white silk cloth inside. "Open it," Feng Hui said. Feng Yan pulled open the folded silk cloth and found a line of black characters written on it. The ink was very dark and heavy. "The killer is Bai Xiu." Chapter 654. Feng Yan raised the banner in his hand and asked, "Grandpa, what's this? Who killed your father?" Feng Hui's eyes flickered as he stared at Feng Yan with a burning gaze. "Bai Xiu," Feng Yan said. "Who's Bai Xiu?" "He's Master's disciple," Feng Yan said. "Why did Master's disciple kill your father?" "I don't know. That's why we're going to ask Master about it," Feng Hui said. "You have to have a good reason to be invincible. Otherwise, if Master investigates the cause of Bai Xiu's death, how are you going to answer?" "I see," Feng Yan said. "The older the wiser." Feng Hui was worried that Feng Yan would be humiliated by Mr. Feng if he went to seek justice from Mr. Feng, so he had to make a scene first. What kind of scene? Of course, it was the scene of the victim avenging his father. "My father was killed by your disciple. I want an eye for an eye, I want justice." First he had to prove that Bai Xiu was the murderer, and then he could push Feng Yan down from the position of murderer, and let him stand on the side of justice. In that case, if Master wanted to use righteousness to pressure people, it wouldn't be so easy. "When are you going to go?" Feng Hui asked. Feng Yan put down the banner, picked up the bowl of soup again and said, After I feed you this bowl of soup, I'll have a good meal with my mother and I'll go to the cemetery to visit my father. I also want to see Yiro. I haven't seen her for a long time, and I heard that she's in seclusion to make a breakthrough. I don't know how she's doing now. There are still many things to do and that's not the most important thing. Feng Hui looked at his grandson with relief and said, "You're not confused by anger, not blinded by hatred and not tempted by benefits. You're a good boy. You're more promising than your grandfather and father." There was a promising child in the family, but Feng Yan scooped a spoonful of ginseng soup and waited for his grandfather to drink it. Then Feng Yan said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, Grandpa. The old drunkard would definitely come back. If he doesn't come back, I'll go to the land of extreme coldness to find him." "Don't go!" Feng Hui shouted. Underestimating the enemy is his own personal choice. If he couldn't return home in glory, then he would be buried in the snow village. He had great faith in his heart and also made a great aspiration. "I won't stop him from going, but you definitely can't go. Don't you understand the nature of underestimating the enemy? If he found the ice dragon, then he would naturally come out from the land of extreme cold. If he doesn't find the ice dragon, even if you go, can you bring him back?" Feng Yan was silent for a long time and said, "I just want to see him to see if he's alive or dead. I miss him a lot." Feng Hui's eyes were watery and he had hot soup in his mouth, so his voice was a little muffled. He said, "The stubbornness of the whole family." When Feng Yan came back, Luan was the happiest one. She ordered the kitchen to prepare Feng Yan's favorite dishes such as double-cooked pork, big mess stew, braised pork knuckle, big head fish caught in shihizi with red and green chilies, and fei long dry stir-frying from the back of the mountain. All parents in the world hoped that their children had an iron stomach so that they could eat all the food they prepared. Feng Yan wanted to visit his father. He had been away from Swallow Dock for a few months, and he hadn't seen his father for a few months. Lu Wan carried a small basket and held Feng Yan's hand, walking to the cemetery in the back of the mountain. Since Feng Yan grew up, Lu Wan had never held her son's hand no matter where she went, like when he was a child. Since Feng Yixing died in the battle, Lu Wan liked to hold her son's hand wherever she went. Subconsciously, he was the only support in her heart. As long as one was a villager of Swallow Dock, he could choose a tomb in the back of Swallow Dock. On the steep hillside, Feng Yan held Lu Wan's hand and climbed up carefully. Along the way, they passed by countless tombs of the villagers of Swallow Dock. There were long-lived elders who died of old age, and there were young and strong heroes who sacrificed their lives for the country and died in a foreign land. The old drunkard Mo Qingdi gave his tomb to the Xianxia military department, and the Xianxia military department won the respect of all the people of Swallow Dock. Therefore, the Xianxia military department was the only foreign owner of this cemetery. The tombstone of the Xianxia military department was clean, without weeds or thorns. There were fruit and wine glasses on the incense table in front of the tombstone. The people of Swallow Dock were hospitable. They would not neglect this foreigner. When they came to visit their relatives, they would always bring him a few fruits or a glass of wine. Feng Yan stopped in front of the tombstone of the Xianxia military department and took out the incense paper money from the small basket carried by his mother. "I don't know if the paper money in the human world will become real money in the underworld. If it can really be exchanged for the same value, you can send me a dream. I will burn a lot of money for you here and let you have a good life in the underworld. If you feel guilty, find a way to ask me about some lottery tickets or stocks that will rise to the upper limit. Good for you, good for me, and good for everyone." Feng Yan's expression was filled with sorrow as he recalled the style of the Thousand Leaves Division's wide robes, the great battle at the summit of One Sword Peak, and how he risked his life to save them when they were suddenly attacked by the armory. He bowed deeply to the tombstone of the Xianxia military department and said, "The great hero is for the country and the people. You have done it for your people. Your countrymen will definitely remember you in their hearts. Also, I want to discuss something with you. Next time you want to trick someone, can you trick someone else instead of me? Since you came to Swallow Dock and died in the battle, do you know how many Japanese men of sacrifice have come to make trouble for me?" Lu Wan looked at Feng Yan worriedly. Feng Yan smiled at her and whispered in her ear, "I lied to him so that he will feel guilty about me and give me some compensation." "You child," Lu Wan said reproachfully. She put her hands together and murmured to the tombstone of the Xianxia military department. Without guessing, Feng Yan knew that his mother was saying that children's words carried no harm. asking the Qinya military department not to stoop to the same level as Fang Yan and bless him to be healthy and so on. His mother would not allow any danger to fall on her child, even if he was facing a dead person. Walking forward and going up a slope, it was Fang Yixing's grave. This grave was personally chosen by the old man of the Li family in the village after pushing the compass and pinching his fingers for a long time. It was said that it was the land of the dragon's eye. The dead were buried here and the future generations were smart and open-minded. All kinds of vegetables and fruits were planted around the grave. Peppers and eggplants grew very well, and there were also a few pear trees and a persimmon tree. Fang Yixing liked to eat pears and persimmons when he was alive, so his mother Lu Wan deliberately planted some next to his grave. Lu Wan took out all the incense, candles and paper money in the basket and said to Fang Yan, "You stay here and talk with your father for a while. I'm going to pull the weeds in the vegetable field." Lu Wan went to do her own things. Fang Yan sat down in front of his father's grave. He used to sit like this for a whole day. Fang Yan lit the incense and burned the paper money. Looking at Fang Yixing's name above the grave, he said, "I know you want me to come and see you, but you don't want me to come and see you every day. For the past few years, you must have been very unhappy to stay by your side every day, right? You always said that men should be independent, men should be brave, men should be diligent, men should learn what they are good at, and men should be regarded as outstanding men. I used to think that you were very long-winded and always felt that those things were too far away from me. Now I feel that what you said is quite reasonable because I've already gotten those things you said. I came a little late, so you can't tell me who killed you. I don't know what you said to Bai Xiu, but I won't believe a word that Bai Xiu said to me. Of course he said that he killed you, I believe that. I already knew that he wasn't a good person. How can a good person look like him?" Fang Yan unscrewed the wine bottle and took a big gulp, saying, "You don't like wine, so I won't pour this wine for you. When I was young, you didn't allow me to drink. When I got drunk with the old drunkard for the first time, you punished me to stand on a wooden stake for a whole day. Now that you're gone, I have the right not to give you wine. What should I say to you?" Fang Yan said with a smile, holding the wine bottle. "In the past, I was too embarrassed to talk in front of your grave. I felt that I was too ashamed to be your son. I learned martial arts for so many years and I always wanted to save this and that, but I couldn't even save my own father. Do you know why I suddenly talk a lot today? You must have already known. Whether you became a ghost or a god, your ability must be getting stronger and stronger. You know everything that happened outside clearly. You should have already known that I avenged you, right?" "I killed Bai Xiu." Fang Yan took another gulp of wine and said with a breath full of the smell of alcohol, "It wasn't easy. Bai Xiu was too treacherous. I didn't expect his swordsmanship to have reached such a shocking level. If I hadn't broken through at the last moment, I'm afraid I would have been cut in half by him. But in the end, I still defeated him. People used to say that Bai Xiu was the first among the younger generation in Swallow Fort, and I didn't bother to refute such a statement. The facts have proven everything, your son. I am the first among the younger generation in Swallow Fort." Fang Yan used his sleeves to wipe his teary eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "I used to think that people live for themselves. But now I really hope that you are still alive so that you can be proud of my achievements every time. You live, I live for you." Chapter 655. The thing we complain about the most is other people's children. At that time we were young and willful. We felt that life was our own. We can live as we like, we can do as we like. We wanted to squander our youth, we wanted to sing to the wine, we wanted to get tattoos of our personalities, we wanted to wear weird earrings in our ears, drinking, fighting, playing games and going to bars. If we didn't do all these things, how could we tell others that we were young once? Fang Yan was also one of the millions of children. What they didn't know was that after parents had children, their lives were extended to their children. They cheered for the first sound you made and they cried when they heard you say something unclear like Alibaba or Mama. They cared about your studies and valued your growth. Every achievement you made, they were happier than you. Every skill you acquired, they were prouder than you. Children were the greatest wealth of their parents. They were eager to let the whole world know, however, what they thought was in conflict with what their parents wanted. Their children thought, "Why should I live for you? Why should I win honor for you? Why should I satisfy your so-called self-esteem? Why should I let you have face in front of your friends and neighbors?" However, did they ever think that their parents who were willing to sacrifice their lives selflessly, would they really want anything from you in return? They just wanted you to live a better life, just a little better. That's all. At that time Fang Yan didn't understand this truth. He hated Fang Yixing's rigidity and liked the old drunkard's flexibility more. He rejected Fang Yixing's scolding and punishment and liked his mother's earnest teaching more. He felt that his father was too selfish. He didn't want to take on the responsibility of revitalizing the family, but he kept forcing himself to work harder and harder. As he grew older and more experienced, as he missed his father more and more, Fang Yan gradually understood this truth. Parents were willing to sacrifice for you selflessly, so you have to take on the responsibility as a child. Love is capricious but also leads. If he could do it all over again, Fang Yan only hoped that Fang Yixing could live well, and he was willing to live for Fang Yixing. Let him share the joy, let him feel the glory. So that he could point at himself in front of anyone and say, "His name is Fang Yan and he is my son." Unfortunately, it was too late for Fang Yan to realize this. By the time he learned how to be a good son, his father had already left. Fang Yan sat in front of Fang Yixing's tombstone, his body trembling as he whimpered. He did not want his mother Lu Wan to know how sad he was, so he covered his mouth to prevent himself from crying. However, what he didn't know was that Lu Wan, who was in the cluster of chili peppers, had already burst into tears and collapsed to the ground weakly. In the main hall of the Yi clan, all the important figures of the Yi clan were gathered. The eldest of the Yi clan's 3 tigers, Yi Daowen, sat in the middle of the hall drinking tea. Although he looked indifferent, the frequency at which he drank was a bit too high. From this, it could be seen that he was very worried. The 3rd tiger, Yi Daoling, who held a high position in the political world and was known as the Minister of Economic Concealment, sat next to his eldest brother. He frowned slightly and didn't hide his displeasure on his face. His fingers kept shaking as if he was playing an impassioned tune. The 2nd son, Zhou Xian, had to carry out a secret mission in another place and couldn't be present. However, his wife Li Shuhua had been waiting by the Yi clan's ancestor for a long time, serving the old lady to eat some melon seeds and snacks. The younger generation of the Yi clan, Yi Fengxing, Yi Daoling, and the others didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They sat on small chairs like obedient children, not daring to make a sound. "Eldest brother, aren't you a bit too anxious?" Yi Daoling's tone was not without complaint. "How old is Ting Nuo? Does she need to break through now? How long has it been since she broke through last time? Is she ready?" "That's what I said, but I can't change what Ting Nuo has decided. When she was young, she was too lenient. When she grew up, she became independent and didn't listen to anyone." Yi Daowen glanced in the direction of the ancestor and said, "That one spoils Ting Nuo too much. The 2 of them have decided the matter. What right do I have as a father to speak? You're not a member of this family? Don't you know the situation better than me? If you can't stop it, then don't stop it. This is not a small matter. If we go to the Mo Bay or even learn from the Fang clan to go to the extremely cold land, we can grit our teeth and accept it. But to run to do such a dangerous thing, what were we doing when Ting Nuo was so old? I remember that at that time I had just practiced the white tiger fist. When I saw my fist had the power of a fierce tiger coming down the mountain, I was so excited. I felt that I was a genius. After seeking the Tao, I continued to ask questions. At such a young age, I was forced to understand some principles. Now I want to covet the heavenly Tao. Is it so easy to reach the heavenly Tao? Practicing martial arts and seeking the Tao can't be rushed. What if the heavenly Tao backfires?" "Yi Daoling, shut your crow's mouth." The ancestor scolded Yi Daoling rudely in front of many juniors and said, "Do you have the steadiness of an elder? The child hasn't even come out yet and you're already cursing her from the side?" Yi Daoling's face was full of grievance and said, "Ancestor, how am I cursing Ting Nuo? Is there such an uncle? I just feel that Ting Nuo is too anxious. You say, a girl, why does she practice martial arts so well? Even if she wants to practice martial arts well, it's fine. She can do it slowly. No one is competing with her. Besides, even if someone wants to participate, no one is her opponent, right? Who in the younger generation in Inner Zheng who can compete with her? It's us of the older generation. Anyway, I'm far inferior to Ting Nuo. Even if Big Brother is much stronger than me, he's not as good as Ting Nuo, right? You are now in the early stage of Tao seeking? Middle stage? Do you have the guts to go to the heavenly Tao? What about Fang Yan?" Being despised by his own younger brother, Yi Daoling said with an unhappy expression, "I heard that he broke through again in Huaqing. A few days ago the old master of Zhang family was still talking about the light of Tai Chi, saying that he is a rare Tai Chi genius. The people of Taoism also attach great importance to this matter. Didn't the old master of Tianji Temple go to the Fong family's old house to visit old master Fong? We don't know what they said, but at least it proves that Taoism attaches great importance to this matter, right? You mean Ting Nuo wanted to force her way through because of the pressure from Fong Yan? Yi Daoling asked with a surprised expression. Ting Nuo is not such a person. Of course Ting Nuo is not such a person, Yi Daoling said. He still had some understanding of his daughter. Ting Nuo won't compete with others. Then she still wants to force her way through. She just doesn't like others to be stronger than her, Yi Daoling said with some embarrassment. In her opinion, it's natural that she is stronger than others. If others are stronger than her, then she hasn't worked hard enough. Yi Daoling sighed softly and said, I hope everything goes smoothly. I still feel that all of you are too careless. Yi Daoling said softly, the Yi family is now like the sun at high noon. Father and I are developing in the political world, second brother is developing in the military, eldest sister and second sister are doing business, and third sister is doing her best as a university professor, echoing us in the academic world. These aren't our greatest trump cards. What's our greatest trump card? It's Yi Gentle. It's the possibility of our Yi family producing a heavenly Dao realm expert. Ting Nuo's reputation is out there. Even the leader behind the red wall has mentioned her to me more than once. He even said that I should send his greetings to Ting Nuo and get her to train well. If she has any difficulties, she can directly report it to him. Even the country places great importance on this matter. How can we treat it like child's play? If Ting Nuo succeeds this time, it will naturally be a joyous occasion for us. Ting Nuo will become the first expert of our Yi family to pry into the heavenly Dao in 100 years. Be it the political world or the pugilistic world, they will have to look at our Yi family in a different light. They will have to reposition their relationship with our Yi family. However, if Ting Nuo fails, Yi Daoling was a politician, so he had to explain the interests involved to his elder brother. He wanted him to understand the importance of Yi Gentle to the Yi family. This time is different from the past. If you can't find the Dao, you can continue searching. If I can't get the truth out of asking, I can just ask again next time. If I can't get it the first time, I'll ask again. If I can't get it the second time, I'll ask again. Yi Daoling pointed to the sky and asked, what is the heavens? It's mysterious and unknown. It's endless. The heavens is sacred, majestic, and inviolable. If a mortal tries to pry into the true face of the heavens, they will suffer a backlash from the heavens and be punished. Some people will be punished with serious injuries or even death. Some people will never be able to recover from this, never having the heart to practice martial arts again. Elder brother, we might lose more than we gain. The patriarch was enraged as he grabbed a pear from the coffee table in front of him and smashed it at Yi Daoling's head. Get out. Yi Daoling, get out, the patriarch said angrily. Yi Daoling didn't dare to dodge as he allowed the pear to hit his head. Chapter 656. Crack. The crisp pear smashed onto Lu Daoling's head, then bounced back and smashed onto the ground. There was nothing wrong with Lu Daoling's forehead. There was just some splashed pear juice on it. If his subordinates saw this, they would be scared out of their wits. Yi Daoling, the authority in the economic field, known as the hidden minister of the Ministry of State, could only accept the fruit thrown at him. Who would believe such a thing if it was set out? Lu Daoling took out a handkerchief from his pocket to wipe the juice on his forehead and smiled. Ancestor's aim is not bad, just like when you were young. Don't give me that cheeky face. The old ancestor hadn't calmed down yet and said with an unhappy expression. Lu Daoling smiled bitterly. Ancestor, I'm just saying some words of understanding to big brother. I know my words aren't pleasant to hear, but it's the truth. Do you still need to hide it from your own family? I can't do such a thing. What do you know? Ancestor pointed at Yi Daoling's nose and scolded. You think with your twisted intestines all day long. You can look down on people just because you read a few more books and learned a few more words? You're the smartest in the world. Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror and see if you still look like a man of swallow dock? You talk about benefits and relationships all day long, full of schemes and schemes. You're an unfashionable politician. Why can't gentleness ascend to heaven? If she wants to ascend, she will ascend. This is the good daughter of Swallow Dock. Why is Emo Qingdi the only one from Swallow Dock who can pry into heaven? That's because Imo Qingdi isn't afraid of anything and doesn't care about benefits or disadvantages. When he was young, what didn't he dare to do? When he was young, who dared to provoke the Fong family? When he was young, he suppressed you bastards so much that you couldn't even lift your heads and breathe heavily. I don't think gentleness is wrong. Get what you want, fight for what you want. Even you know that you have to pass the heavenly barrier. Of course, the heavenly barrier has to be passed. You're so worried about this and afraid of that, cowering all day long, and you still want to pry into heaven? If I were God, I would use lightning to strike you. No wonder Imo Qingdi only has a good relationship with Wen Wan. He doesn't care about cowards like you at all. It would be best if my gentleness succeeds, but it's not a big deal if I fail. I'm just a woman and I don't know any big principles. But in my opinion, the heavenly Tao is the human Tao. Humanity was about doing what one wanted to do. She is injured and crippled. Our Yi family will provide for her for the rest of her life. If she dies, our Yi family will also pinch our noses and accept it. Who can live forever? After listening to the elder ancestor's words, everyone present, regardless of age or gender, was moved. Yi Daoling's youngest daughter, Yizi, reached out to massage the old ancestor's shoulders and said, "Old ancestor, don't be angry with my dad. He's also worried about my sister." If he was really worried, I wouldn't have said these things. Even at this time, he still has other thoughts. He deserves to be scolded. Yi Daoling's face was red, and he explained awkwardly to the old ancestor, "Old ancestor, if I'm wholeheartedly doing this for my own benefit, I should encourage gentleness to challenge the heavenly axiom. How can I say that she's too anxious? I'm purely worried about her safety." "You're right, I'm a mediocre politician now. I can't help it. It's said that our Yi family is prosperous, but most people are either seeking immortality or seeking the Tao. Each of them is a reclusive master, and each of them is untainted by dust. Our Yi family wants to live and we want to live well. There has to be a few people who jump out to do those dirty things, right? Guanyin Bodhisattva still needs a group of ordinary people to worship her. Old ancestor, don't you think this makes sense? Yi family wants to rise, Yi family wants to develop, these are all correct. But don't forget what our duty and foundation is. Don't forget what the name of the land under your feet is. This is Swallow's Dock, remember this name." The old ancestor pointed at Yi Daoling and said, "Little Ling, you forget the fastest. You are still far from being gentle. You're a loser." After the great ancestor finished speaking, he turned around with some uncertainty and asked, "Yezi, is that what he said?" Yezi's face turned red. He didn't dare to look at his father's eyes that were about to spit fire. He nodded and said, "Old ancestor is right, too right." Everyone in the room looked like they wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. Everyone was having a hard time holding back their laughter. Lu Daoling got up angrily and said, "I'm going out for a smoke." As soon as Lu Daoling stepped out of the hall, he heard the laughter of everyone behind him. After getting busy, even eating at the same table with his family became a blissful moment. Lu Wan first scooped soup for Fong Hui, then put some food for Fong Yan. She didn't touch her chopsticks, but she kept urging the old and the young to drink more soup and eat more food. Fong Hui looked at Fong Yan eagerly and said, "It's rare for Fong Yan to come back. Let's have a small reunion. Open the bottle of Maotai in my room. It's a happy day, everyone drink some." Lu Wan was the first to object. She said, "Dad, you're not in good health. The doctor also advised you not to drink. You should drink more soup." Fong Hui's mental state was really worrying recently. Lu Wan didn't dare to let anything happen to him. Fong Yan also followed and said, "My mom is right. Grandpa, you should drink the soup." Fong Yan ran to Fong Hui's room and took out a bottle of old Maotai. After he unscrewed the cap, the whole room was filled with the aroma of wine. "Good wine," Fong Yan praised. He poured half a cup for his mother and a full cup for himself. He said, "Today is a happy day. We should drink some wine. Come, let's have a toast." Then he said to Fong Hui, "Grandpa can't drink. Let's use soup as a substitute." Fong Yan raised his cup and clinked it with his mother's. They both took a sip. Fong Hui slammed the bowl of soup on the table and said angrily, "This meal is tasteless. I'm not eating anymore." After that, he was about to push the wheelchair away from the table. "I'll give you one spoonful," Fong Yan shouted. Fong Hui stopped pushing the wheelchair and said, "One tael. Only one spoonful. Half a tael. Only one spoonful. 2 spoonfuls. Only 1 spoonful. If you don't want it, then forget it. Fang Yan put on an uncompromising posture. Fang Hui hesitated for a long time and said, 1 spoonful then. So Fang Yan poured a spoonful of Maotai into the spoon and carefully put it into Fang Hui's mouth. Fang Hui savored it with an intoxicated expression. He smiled happily and said, really good wine. Fang Yan and Lu Wan glanced at each other and laughed as well. Lu Wan whispered to Fang Yan, your grandpa will only be so happy when you come back. Fang Yan held his mother's hand tightly and said, I won't leave this time. Even if I have to leave, I'll take you with me. Lu Wan shook her head and said, don't mention this to your grandfather. This is what he doesn't want to see the most. He doesn't need you to accompany him. He wants you to soar in the sky like an eagle. Do what you want to do. He won't hold you back and he won't leave Swallow Dock. I won't either. I'll stay here and look after the house for you. I'll take care of your grandpa and stay with your father. Fang Yan sighed inwardly and said to Lu Wan with a smile, Granny has been urging me to get married. She called me and talked about it. What's going on between you and Chowga? And Ting, how are things going between you two? I heard that Ting Wan has been cultivating in seclusion. I haven't seen her for a while. Fang Yan said with a smile, I'm waiting for her to come out as well. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Fang Yan sat in the courtyard with Grandpa Luo and chatted with him. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen had been left in watching by Fang Yan. Without them, the house was a lot more deserted. Listening to Fang Hui talk about his brave deeds when he was young, Fang Yan suddenly felt annoyed and restless. Seeing that Fang Yan was distracted, Fang Hui said, I'm tired and I want to sleep. You can go about your own business. Fang Yan rose to his feet and said, Grandpa, I'm going out for a while. Go ahead. Fang Hui waved his hand, looked at the eagle on the cage and said, I'll talk to this old man for a while and then go to bed. Fang Yan hurriedly ran to the entrance of the Yi family's old residence and banged on the door with all his might. The red door opened and Yi Laosen, who was guarding the door, saw Fang Yan standing at the door and said, Little Yan, it's so late. What brings you here? I want to see Yi Ro. Fang Yan said. That won't do. Yi Laosen wanted to close the door and said, Miss Luo has been cultivating in seclusion for many days and has never seen any guests. No one in the family can see her, not to mention an outsider like you. I have something urgent to talk to her about. Fang Yan wanted to break in. Fang Yan, Yi Laosen shouted. I'm telling you, don't do anything stupid. Swallow Dock also has its own rules. You're barging into our Yi family in the middle of the night. What do you want? I have a bad feeling. I want to see Yi Ro. Fang Yan rushed in regardless and said, No matter what, I must see Yi Ro today. Grandpa Yi, let me in please. I've stolen a lot of cigarettes for you in the past, right? What if I don't let you in? A clear voice came over. Fang Yan looked into the house and saw Yi Daoling in a white tang suit standing in the yard and staring at him coldly. Chapter 657. What if I don't let you in? Yi Daoling was wearing a white tang suit. The front of the suit was drenched. His short hair was messy and his face was flushed. There were still beads of sweat on his forehead. It wasn't hard to guess what he was doing. The Yi family loved martial arts. The white tiger fist passed down in their family was ferocious and could split mountains. If they entered the tiger stage, they could transform into a tiger and use their bodies to raise tigers. They would be like a tiger king patrolling the mountains. The 3 tigers of the Yi family practiced martial arts. Among them, Yi Daoxian had the highest achievements. He was the first of the 3 brothers to enter the tiger stage of the Yi family. At that time, it caused a great sensation in the Neijiang Lake. It was precisely because of how outstanding Yi Daoxian and the other 2 brothers were that outsiders referred to them as the 3 tigers of the Yi clan, or the 3 heroes of the Yi clan. Of course, the latter was not as famous as the former. Yi Daoxian was a genius. He modified the tiger fist and trained it on the members of the most elite and mysterious special forces of Wuxia, the Sword of the East. When the Sword of the East carried out all kinds of difficult missions, the tiger fist performed outstandingly and reached shocking combat power. It also protected the safety of the members of the Sword of the East. During a battle outside of South Africa, the Sword of the East encountered the Wolf Blood Kamikaze team, which was also famous for their valiance and bloodthirstiness. The Sword of the East fought as an away team and fought 1 against 3. Even though they lost 3 members and injured 5, They managed to wipe out 21 elites of the Wolf Blood Kamikaze team. This battle shocked the entire world. America, Russia, and Israel were famous for their special forces. Only then did they understand that the special forces of Wuxia were already among the strongest in the world. It was said that the military was very interested in the Tiger Fist of the Yi family. They were working with Zhou Xian to prepare a simplified version as one of the basic fist techniques of the three armies. If Zhou Xian's simplified version of the Tiger Fist was widely used in the three armies, then Zhou Xian would become the commander of the three armies. He would be even more awesome than Lin Chong, the instructor of the 800,000 Imperial Guards in Water Margin. The Yi family would become the top noble family in Yanjing and even the whole of Wuxia. This was also the reason why Zhou Xian had been appearing and disappearing unpredictably for the past few years, almost never returning to his home at Swallow Dock. He knew what this success meant to him and the Yi family. Yi Daowen's personality was honest and sincere. He guarded the old residents at Swallow Dock and took care of the young and old of the Yi family. He was equivalent to the Yi family's great patriarch. He wholeheartedly pursued martial arts. Although his aptitude was slightly weak, he had achieved good results after many years of hard work. Yi Daoling was passionate about politics and was inevitably distracted. Therefore his martial arts realm was naturally a level lower than the other two brothers. The old drunkard had once commented on the warriors of Swallow's Dock and said, "The Yi clan's fierce tiger fist is number one in terms of biting cold and murderous Zhou Xian. In terms of nimbleness and versatility, Dao Ling is number one. In terms of thick and heavy, Yi Daowen is number one. Dao Xian and Dao Ling win in the front and Daowen wins in the back." The key was whether Yi Daowen could break through the threshold before him. Even the weakest of the three brothers, Yi Daoling, had long entered the middle stage of the tiger realm of the fierce tiger fist. If he had enough time and could practice every day, it would be easy for him to break through again. But now, such a powerful person was blocking the door of the Yi family's old residence and said, "What if I don't let you in? Isn't this bullying?" Fang Yan laughed after seeing Yi Daoling. He warmly greeted him and said, "Third uncle, long time no see. When did you come back? I was thinking of visiting you in Yanjing after coming back. I didn't expect to meet you in Swallow's Dock. Third uncle just finished practicing martial arts? It's still early. I think third uncle won't be resting now. I'll go in and drink tea with you and chat." When Fang Yan spoke, he was about to pass by the gatekeeper Yi Laosan. Yi Laosan reached out to stop him and happened to block Fang Yan's body. Fang Yan looked at Yi Laosan and said, "Grandpa Yi, third uncle has agreed to this. Why are you still blocking me?" Yi Laosan liked Fang Yan and sincerely advised, "Little Yan, go back. Come back in the morning. Grandpa will open the door for you." Yi Daoling thoughtfully looked at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan, do you know what time it is now? Everyone in the Yi family lives here. Do you think it's appropriate for you to barge in the middle of the night?" "Third uncle, I want to see Yi Ro." Fang Yan directly stated his intention. But Yi Daoling refused and said, "Ro is training behind closed doors. She won't see anyone." "Third uncle, I feel upset and restless. I'm worried that something happened to Ro." Fang Yan said anxiously. Yi Daoling sneered and said, "Fang Yan, you feel upset and restless because you are sick. If you are sick, you have to see a doctor. What does this have to do with Ro? I feel that something is wrong with Ro. Maybe her breakthrough is obstructed." Fang Yan helplessly explained, "It's better if she's fine. If she's fine, I have to go check to make sure she's safe." Yi Daoling was amused by Fang Yan's words. He looked at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan, don't you think your request is too much? Ro's breakthrough is a big thing for our Yi family. During this time, everyone in the Yi family is serving Ro. The first priority is to ensure Ro's safety. You said that Ro is in danger. You said that you want to go in and see her. But Yi Ro is a member of our Yi family. If she is disturbed by you during the most critical period of her breakthrough, who is responsible for this? Who will bear this loss? If you destroy Ro's ascension and cause her to suffer from the backlash of the heavenly law, Fang Yan, why should I give you such a chance?" Fang Yan looked at Yi Daoling sincerely and said, "Third uncle, you care about Ro. I also care about Ro. Ro is now a member of your Yi family, but she will be a member of my family in the future." "Bastard!" Yi Daoling shouted coldly, "Who said that Ro will be a member of your Fang family in the future? Did our Yi family agree?" Fang Yan was not angry. He looked at Yi Daoling and said, "Third uncle, this is a private matter between me and Ro Ro. It's fine as long as Ro Ro agrees. I want to marry Yi Ro. I'm not going to marry all of your Yi family. She's my girlfriend and I am her boyfriend. If my father hadn't died, Ro Ro and I might have gotten married and had children. I knew that you Fangyan are sharp-tongued and hard to deal with. Now you've learned to pester me endlessly?" Yi Daoling's face was livid. He said to third brother Yi, "Get me a small stool. I will stay here tonight. I want to see how you will enter my Yi family's gate." Fang Yan's eyes were firm. He gritted his teeth and said, "Third uncle, you also know that you can't beat me." Yi Daoling was so angry that he laughed and said, "You really have confidence in yourself. Since you said that I can't beat you, I still want to try. If you dare to cross the threshold of my Yi family tonight, I will serve you with Yi family's fierce tiger fist." "Third uncle, we will be a family in the future. Why do we have to fight?" Fang Yan said helplessly, "Didn't we get along very well when we were in Yanjing last time? At that time, you even praised me and said that I was the most outstanding young man in Swallow Fort. The most outstanding young man can't even cross the gate of your Yi family?" Yi Daoling said. "Before Ro Ro comes out, no one is allowed to disturb her. This is the rule set by our Yi family. I will be on duty tonight. Naturally, I can't let the commandment be broken on the first day. Then I can only let third uncle down," Fang Yan said. As he spoke, he had already bent over and rushed into the backyard of the Yi family's old house. Boom! Yi Daoling's body instantly bounced up and pounced towards Fang Yan like a tiger preying on its prey. The ancients were particular about reflecting on their mistakes while facing the wall, but today's people like to face the wall to make breakthroughs. In fact, facing the wall to reflect and facing the wall to make breakthroughs were the same. The ancients also had the idea of improving their strength while reflecting on themselves, whether it was on the physical or spiritual level. This was a sealed stone cave in the basement of the Yi family's ancestral hall. In the past, it was a place to avoid the flames of war or escape when the family encountered a major crisis. Now, it had become a place for important people in the family to live in seclusion when facing important decisions. The stone cave was extremely simple. There was a stone bed, a stone table, and a stone chair. This was all the belongings of the entire house. There was a simple and elegant glass bottle on the stone table. There was a bamboo branch in the glass bottle. This bottle and the bamboo branch in the bottle were brought in by Yi Ro when she was in seclusion. It was to have a companion in this stone room. The green bamboo leaves were the only green in this room. There were windows in the stone room. The moonlight shone in from the skylight overhead, illuminating every corner of the stone room. The ventilation and exhaust holes were done very well. It wouldn't make people feel short of breath. There was no telephone, no computer, no music, and no books. There was nothing modern. Because she hadn't cut her hair for a long time, her hair had grown longer and now reached her shoulders. Because she hadn't bathed in the sun for a long time, her pretty face was pale, giving people a transparent color. Yi Ro was dressed in a black robe. She sat cross-legged on the bed. Her hands were naturally clasped on her knees. Her eyes were closed as if she was asleep. She had maintained this posture for 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days ago, after she ate some dry food and drank some water, she suddenly had an epiphany. So she walked to the stone bed and sat down. In the past 2 days, Yi Ro's mood was very calm. She had no desires and her 6 senses were pure. Her thoughts were in a wanton state. Not dirty, not clean, not thinking about anything, but it was possible to capture anything. She walked in the wilderness, in an uninhabited desert. The yellow sand rolled and the wind blew. In the entire world, she was the only moving living thing. In the distant sky, she could hear the long cry of a crane. She knew that crane was the way she was looking for. She wanted to find that crane. Chapter 658. The ferocious tiger fist was famous for its bravery and vigor. This fist technique was used by Yi Daoling, one of the 3 tigers of the Yi family. Yi Daoling had long entered the tiger stage, so when he pounced at Fang Yan, he had already turned into a tiger. His huge body was like the body of a tiger king. The powerful aura could suppress all the beasts in the forest and make it hard for them to move. Yi Daoling's hands turned into sharp claws. One clawed at Fang Yan's chest and the other at Fang Yan's throat. Both of them were vital points. True energy filled them. Yi Daoling's claws also seemed to have expanded several times. His hands faintly flashed with red light as if they had been dyed with paint. A human's palm became a tiger's claws. The strength of a human was far greater than the strength of a tiger's pounce. Because of the extreme speed, the claws left countless afterimages in the air. Countless claws formed a line in the air, forming a heart-palpitating scene of ghost entanglement. He was 2 meters away from Fang Yan just now, but he had reached Fang Yan's chest and throat in an instant. The ferocious tiger descends the mountain. Yi Daoling's pair of sharp claws completely locked down Fang Yan's attack route. No matter which part he charged from, he could use the cruelest and most violent method to kill him, if Yi Daoling was willing. Ferocious tiger patrolling the mountain. Amazing. Fang Yan praised in his heart. As a politician in economic work, Yi Daoling was able to have such deep internal energy and such brilliant skills while doing his job well. It had to be said that this person's talent and diligence were extremely rare. When Fang Yan saw Yi Daoling for the first time, he was practicing in the courtyard. When he saw Yi Daoling again, he was still practicing in the courtyard. Practicing in the winter and practicing in the summer. After a long time, he would definitely become a great person. The 3 tigers of the Yi family were praised like this. Naturally, they had their outstanding points. Before the tiger claws arrived, Fang Yan was already attacked by the air currents stirred up by the claws. The strong wind blades blew on his face and body, causing him to feel a burning pain. Fortunately, Fang Yan was also a martial artist with great skills. If he didn't have internal energy to protect his body and solid skin to protect himself, his face and body would have been cut into countless bloody wounds by Yi Daoling's claws. Fang Yan charged forward fearlessly, as if he was taking the initiative to charge into the range of Yi Daoling's claws. Hiss! Yi Daoling's first claw grabbed at Fang Yan's throat. Fang Yan's body turned into a Tai Chi Pisces as he rushed forward. At the same time, his left foot was still moving forward. His right foot turned 180 degrees and then turned again. He went behind Yi Daoling. Yi Daoling's claw missed and he turned around like lightning. His other claw locked onto Fang Yan's chest. White Tiger turned around. Fang Yan's body fell backward. His feet landed on the ground as if there were 2 steel nails nailed to the ground. His body was almost parallel to the ground at 180 degrees. Gotcha! Yi Daoling's claw grabbed onto the vermilion door of the courtyard and a large piece of wood fell down. Yi Daoling threw away the wood in his hand and jumped up high, once again pouncing towards Fang Yan, who was lying on the ground. Pala! Yi Daoling's 2 claws were deeply inserted into the ground. The old limestone was actually poked out 2 large holes by his claws. Fang Yan's body had already disappeared from where he stood, as if he had never been there. What a good move! Evil tiger digs out the heart. Fang Yan stood not far away and looked at Yi Daoling with lingering fear. He said, "Third uncle, you don't have to risk your life like this, right? I just wanted to remind Wen Wan. You don't have to think about digging out my heart too, right?" Gotcha! Yi Daoling pulled out his palm from the stone hole. He stretched out his hand and gently squeezed, turning the stone residue in his palm into powder. Opening his palm, the stone powder was blown away by the night wind. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan and said in a deep voice, "You broke into my Yi family's ancestral home at night. This concerns the honor and reputation of the Yi family. As a member of the Yi family, you naturally have the responsibility to protect it from outsiders." Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "Third uncle, I have good intentions. If I had any bad intentions towards Yi Wenwan, I would have sneaked in a long time ago. Why would I come knocking on the front door?" Yi Daoling sneered and said, "The Yi family is heavily guarded. Not anyone can sneak in. Fang Yan, didn't you say that I'm not your opponent? If you are a real man of Swallow's Dock, then fight me to your heart's content. What kind of hero are you if you hide like this?" "Third uncle, I said that you're not my opponent not to show off how powerful I am. If you were my opponent, you would have used the fierce tiger patrolling the mountain, and evil tiger steals heart, of the 3 killing moves of the fierce tiger fists. Moreover, they were consecutive moves. How could you not injure me?" Yi Daoling's face became more gloomy and said, "It seems that I must let you have a good taste of my Yi family's unique skill tonight. Third uncle, Wen Wan's safety is more important. I naturally know that Wen Wan's safety is more important. It is because I understand this that no matter what, I can't let you in tonight." I have to go in no matter what. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daoling with a firm expression and said, "Third uncle, you are Yi Wenwan's uncle and also an elder that I respect. I understand that you have the responsibility of guarding the family, but I also have a reason to go. Regardless of whether your Yi family admits it or not, Yi Wenwan has already agreed to be my girlfriend. She is my woman and the mother of my future child. I feel that she is in danger and this danger is very strong. So forgive me for being rude. When this matter is over and Wenwan is safe and sound, I will bring wine to apologize to you." "You don't need to apologize to me," Yi Daoling said. "Fang Yan, since you want to come in, then take 3 punches from me. We will exchange 3 punches. If you can take 3 punches from me, I will go back to my room to sleep. I won't care about what you do." Fang Yan helplessly shrugged his shoulders and said, "Third uncle, Tai Chi is about using softness to overcome hardness. You want me to exchange 3 punches with you? You don't agree?" "Of course I agree," Fang Yan said. "I said that no matter what, I will enter the Yi family tonight. And I will enter the Yi family from the front door. Then I wish you good luck." A smile appeared on Yi Daoling's face. His hands were clenched into fists. Because of the excessive strength, the place where his fists were made crackling sounds. That wasn't the sound of bones cracking, but the sound of burning strength burning the air. Oh, Yi Daoling's abdomen made a sound similar to a tiger wanting to eat. During the formation of the tiger fist from inside to outside, it was like a real adult tiger. Yi Daoling's body bowed slightly and his head leaned forward, making the standard action of catching prey. Boom, his feet stomped on the ground and his body jumped high, once again pouncing towards Fang Yan. His fists danced in the air. The iron fist that was like a giant hammer began to shrink amidst the crackling sounds of burning. It became smaller and smaller, finally becoming the size of a normal fist. Whoosh, like a breeze it smashed towards Fang Yan's head. It didn't seem to be dangerous. Of course, it just seemed. The crane cries, sometimes near, sometimes far, and sometimes completely disappeared. Yi Wen first walked slowly with a leisurely attitude. Then she trotted, wanting to get closer. She walked through one sea of sand after another, passing through one sand dune after another. However, the scenery in front of her was still the same, and the crane cries in the sky were still far away. She didn't get closer to her goal. She couldn't find the heavenly law in her heart. Yi Wen sprinted forward wildly. Her black clothes were cut by the wind, fluttering. Her feet ran faster and faster, and her body turned into a gust of black wind. He saw the white crane. She flew elegantly among the clouds, letting out a long cry from time to time. The sound was clear and spread far. It seemed to see Yi Wen running on the ground. This was the only companion she met in the desert. She flapped her wings and flew straight down, like a runner leading the way above Yi Wen's head. Yi Wen was fast, but it flew faster. Yi Wen slowed down, so it also slowed down. Yi Wen bit her thin lips and her body suddenly leaped. Its speed was so sudden, as fast as lightning. It stretched out its right hand, wanting to grab the 2 slender legs of the crane. Whoosh! The white crane changed into the smiling face of Fang Yan. Fang Yan, Yi Wen's expression stiffened and her hand naturally stopped. Then the scene in front of her changed. She came to the sunny spring. Flowers were blooming all over the mountains and fields, and the green grass covered the whole land like a blanket. She ran in the grassland in a snow-white dress. Butterflies fluttered and birds sang. The whole world was full of vitality, which made her body and soul feel unprecedentedly happy. She wanted to run on the grassland, she wanted to dance among the flowers, she wanted to taste every wild fruit, she wanted to hold a handful of spring water and splash it on her face. She saw a young deer at the edge of the jungle. It looked at her with confused eyes, like a newborn child looking at this strange world. Yi Wen's mind moved, and then she ran wildly toward the young deer. When she stretched out her hands and wanted to push the deer down, the deer turned into the mocking face of Fang Yan. The scene changed again. She was in the hell of hell. Countless evil ghosts flew toward her. When she tried to stab them with her sword, each evil ghost turned into the frightened face of Fang Yan. The scene changed again. She was in the battlefield of 2 armies. Dead soldiers were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. Yi Wen led the army to fight and finally captured the enemy's commander. The enemy's commander turned out to be Fang Yan. Yi Wen finally understood that if she wanted to peep into the natural law, she had to cut off her love. Chapter 659. Prying into the secrets of heaven and seeking the Tao. This was something that defied ethics and common sense. What was heaven? No one knew. Yi Rou herself didn't know either. If you didn't know what you were looking for, how could you find it? Mysterious within mysterious, the door of all wonders. This was what Laozi said in the Tao Te Ching. It meant that if you wanted to open the door of all wonders and the password of life, you needed to comprehend it with your heart and find the rules and connections between all things. The Tao was natural and the Tao didn't change. However, there were rules. Everything had an origin and an end. Knowing the order, you had to follow the Tao. No one knew what heaven was because 10,000 people would have 10,000 different answers in their hearts. This was the same logic as the classic saying, 1,000 readers have 1,000 Hamlets in their hearts. Heaven wasn't a fantasy or a different world. It was just a thought in your heart. Everyone had all sorts of thoughts in their mind, and each thought represented the only path they could take. Some people couldn't understand some things their entire lives and died in depression. Some people struggled for a while and finally thought it through or decided to give up. Instead, they felt refreshed and happy for the rest of their lives. This was a challenge that everyone had to go through. It was also a test that they had to endure every day. From small things like, what to eat today, to big things like, should I beat up the neighbor old Wang? This was a choice and a clear thought. All martial artists knew that heaven was the strongest power in the world. Prying into the secrets of heaven and seeking the Tao. This was something that defied ethics and common sense. In serious cases, it would even trigger the power of laws. Therefore, to pry into the backlash of heaven, one had to gamble with the most important beliefs in one's heart. A good official would lose his position, a greedy person would lose his wealth, a good name would lose his reputation, a good person would lose his person. Either he regressed and became immortal for all eternity, or move forward and give up what you cared about the most. Heaven was the only one. If one wanted to pry into heaven, one had to cut off their emotions, desires, and dust to become a servant of heaven. It was easy to say, but how could it be? If Yi Daoling were to give up his position, if Fang Yan were to give up his family, if Yi Rou were to give up Fang Yan, everyone had countless desires in their hearts. Everyone had their own people or things that were worth protecting with their lives. Who dared to give up so easily? Those who had the willpower to become monks were all heartless bastards with great ideals and wisdom. Those who had the courage to commit suicide were just pure heartless bastards. It wasn't until this moment that Yi Rou realized that her deepest obsession was Fang Yan, the man whom she had beaten since she was a child, the man who used to regard her as a scourge, the man who was treacherous and affectionate, the man who could make her furious and bring her laughter, the man she had fallen in love with when she was very, very young. If she wanted to find the heavenly axiom, if she wanted to run on the road of martial arts without any worries, then she had to completely separate from that man. She had to expel him from the depths of her heart, delete him from the depths of her memory, let him leave her thoughts, let him leave her life, let him no longer be able to arouse any of her emotions, let him become a passerby, let him become a faceless person. The scene changed again. Yi Rou was once again in the deserted Gobi Desert. She saw the white crane that looked like Fang Yan. As long as it stretched out its hand, it could break her neck. The scene changed again. Yi Rou came to the grassland in the spring breeze. She looked into the eyes of the young deer. The deer nudged her chest with its sharp horns and even rubbed her soft breast shamelessly. She felt a tingling sensation on her body. She almost couldn't stand steadily. As long as she slapped down, she could slap the deer to death. The scene changed again. Yi Rou was choked by the ferocious ghost that looked like Fang Yan. Her face turned purple and she had difficulty breathing. The scene changed again. The long sword in her hand was hanging on Fang Yan's neck, but she couldn't chop off his head. This scene kept repeating. All the scenes related to Fang Yan kept changing. In the end, it turned into countless fast-forward scenes that flashed in and out of Yi Rou's mind. Countless scenes flashed. Countless Fang Yan were shouting at her, smiling at her, brandishing his claws at her, waving his long sword at her. Yi Rou's mood began to become agitated. A lot of beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Her meditating body was unstable. Her hands that were upside down on her knees were trembling slightly. Every time she trembled, large beads of sweat would fall from the back of her hands. Her hair was soaked and stuck to her scalp. On the stone table, the water had already formed a river. Between the heavenly Tao and Fang Yan, how should Yi Rou choose? How should she choose? The agitation became stronger and stronger. Her body turned into a barrel of dynamite as if it could explode at any time. Fang Yan wanted to shout to Yi Daoling, "Let's have a temporary truce. I want to see Yi Rou." But he was very clear that if he didn't beat Yi Daoling until he was convinced, Yi Daoling wouldn't allow him to see Yi Rou. Just as Yi Daoling said, no one cared more about whether Yi Rou could successfully break through than the Yi family. The Yi family wouldn't allow anyone to destroy Yi Rou's breakthrough at this critical period. At least in their eyes, Fang Yan was here to destroy the most talented child in the family, known as the rare good horse of the Yi family, who dared to let her experience even a little bit of risk when she was facing the biggest obstacle in her life. Yi Daoling's fist that was swollen with a strong force became smaller and smaller. When it reached Fang Yan's face, it was no different from an ordinary fist. It was even smaller than a normal person's fist. It looked like a child's fist. The force was restrained, tightening the flesh and shrinking the bones. The fist was like a grenade. When it collided with a person or object, it would explode like a grenade. Right now Fang Yan felt the pressure of facing a grenade. Fang Yan felt the danger, and so did the heart of Tai Chi. The silent heart of Tai Chi suddenly spun wildly. The Tai Chi domain also fully unfolded in Fang Yan's mind. In the Tai Chi domain, Yi Daoling disappeared. There was only a big red ball attacking him. The Tai Chi domain wouldn't lie. The big red ball that it presented was the true face of Yi Daoling's punch. What the naked eye could see was a maze. White tiger swallows the moon. Yi Daoling's abdomen had a whimper. Yi Daoling opened his mouth and roared. Yi Daoling was like an adult tiger wanting to destroy the moon of Fang Yan with one punch. Fang Yan stood in place, his feet apart, his hands stretched out naturally and kept drawing circles in front of him. One circle connected to another and countless circles turned into a chi core. This chi core was like a tornado, covering Yi Daoling who was pouncing at him. Yi Daoling's body was shrouded by the tornado and then he disappeared. Crackle crackle. A loud explosion and the roar of a tiger came from the tornado. A dazzling white light flashed. The white light cut through the dark night of the small courtyard, and the silence of Swallow Dock. It was like a searchlight rising into the sky, shining so brightly that people couldn't open their eyes. The wind swept the fallen leaves and the dust flew. The world changed color and the bright moon shone brightly. Hiss! A hole was torn in the tornado and Yi Daoling's body rushed out from that hole. The hole created by the tornado naturally couldn't maintain the integrity of this domain. Boom! The tornado burst open. The wind swept in all directions, and the gatekeeper Yi Laosen was blown down by the strong wind. His body rolled several times on the ground. The biggest gust of wind hit the century-old vermilion door of the Yi family's old residence. There was a loud crack and a big hole appeared on the door. Creak creak. The door on the left shook violently for a few times and then fell to the ground with a bang. The door of the Yi family's old residence was actually knocked down by the tornado energy released by Fang Yan. Yi Daoling's body soared in the air and he charged forward rapidly. Clang, his feet trod on the bluestone tiles. The bluestone tiles couldn't bear the great power that came with his body, and with a loud cracking noise, the tiles caved in, just like two pieces of tofu being crushed by someone's foot. Yi Daoling's hair was messy and his clothes were torn into pieces. Wounds appeared on his face and blood was oozing out. Yi Daoling's pupils were filled with red veins, and he stared at Fang Yan without blinking. There was some doubt but more of an uncontrollable anger. Hearing the commotion outside, the Yi family all turned on the lights and many people rushed to the small courtyard. Yi Daolin's expression was slightly angry, but he didn't say anything to Fang Yan. Since Yi Daoling had appeared as the big brother, he wasn't in a hurry to express his attitude. Yi Daoling's other juniors had ugly expressions. Fang Yan's actions were seen as provocation by them. Fang Yan, are you crazy? You came to smash our door in the middle of the night? Yi Daoling stared at Fang Yan with an unfriendly expression and shouted in a low voice. Fang Yan, what are you dash? Yi Daoling originally wanted to scold Fang Yan, but thinking of the relationship between Fang Yan and Sister Wen Nuo, he stomped his feet and said, why did you come to the Yi family so late at night? Yi Fengxing was shocked to see the fallen door. The Yi family had been standing for thousands of years and had been despised, trampled and stepped on countless times. However, it was the first time the door was torn down like tonight. Yi Fengxing moved his fat butt and jogged in front of Fang Yan. His voice became a bit shaky as he said, Fang Yan, How did you know that our door was about to fall? I already found out that this door was rotten and I always wanted to get a new one. But this is our Yi family's matter, you should quickly go back. As he spoke he tried to push Fang Yan away. You tore down the door of our Yi family? Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan with a hoarse voice and asked. Chapter 660. The ancients often said, bring glory to the family. For the people of Wuxia, the door had a rich and colorful meaning. The door represented dignity, power, and the face of a man and a family. No matter in any dynasty or era, no matter if it was a powerful person or a commoner in the countryside, tearing down the door was a taboo. It was not much different from digging up someone's ancestral grave. Of course, it was a little exaggerated. But if someone dared to go to someone's house and tear down the door, it was easy to irritate them and cause a fierce conflict. In the end, the problem could be solved by force. Except for the city management. Since he understood the heart of Tai Chi, Fang Yan's sixth sense was especially sharp. He was very sensitive to everything around him. Fang Yan suddenly felt uneasy. Subconsciously he sensed that this feeling had something to do with Yi Rou. Yi Rou was cultivating in seclusion at this time. As far as he knew, Yi Rou suddenly went into seclusion this time mainly because she felt that the opportunity was approaching and the opportunity to break through was right in front of her. Yi Rou had been practicing martial arts since she was a child. She had entered the Dao-seeking stage when she was still a minor. She shocked the entire inner Jianghu and was called the first master of the younger generation in the inner Jianghu. It should be known that there were many elites in the inner Jianghu, and there were countless outstanding young people. Not to mention the young talents like Fang Yan, Bai Xiu and Bailey Lu in Swallow Dock. The disciples of some famous masters outside were also very outstanding. Not to mention those in the 72 sects in the south who practiced fist techniques. Several young people in the 11 sects in the north who practiced leg techniques also entered the public sight. Their achievements were praised by the older generation. Fang Yan had understood the heart of Tai Chi when he was 20 years old. He was the most outstanding successor of Fang family Tai Chi in the past 100 years, except for the old drunkard. He was the proudest successor of Tai Chi except for the old drunkard. However, even a genius like Fang Yan was firmly suppressed by Yi Rou, which showed how powerful and domineering Yi Rou was. 3 years ago, Yi Rou broke through again and became the second youngest master to enter the Dao-seeking stage in the inner Jianghu. The first young guy was called Xiong Feihu. He entered the Dao-seeking stage at the age of 21, which was an achievement that many people could not achieve in their lifetime. Therefore he was nicknamed Monster. Until now he was still a legend in the inner river. It's just that he was born in the northern border, grew up in the northern border, and learned some sinister and vicious martial arts. His character was eccentric and he almost never interacted with people. Fang Yan had only heard of his name and had never seen him in person. Fang Yan just wanted to see Yi Rou. He just wanted to make sure that his girlfriend was safe. In all honesty, Yi Rou had promised to be his girlfriend. They had walked hand in hand on the path outside the village countless times. He even wanted to kiss Yi Rou when she was not paying attention. It turned out that Yi Rou had never been unguarded against him. Every time Fang Yan's mouth approached her, she would always be able to slap Fang Yan away in time or kick Fang Yan to the ground. Sometimes Fang Yan would think that Yi Rou agreed to be his girlfriend because she could hit him easily. No other man could give her such a strong sense of accomplishment. Later he tried very hard to throw such thoughts out of his mind. Because he felt that it was disrespectful to him. How could I accidentally tear down someone's door? Fang Yan also had a headache. It seemed that things were getting more and more complicated and difficult to deal with. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daoling and said, I didn't tear it down. If you didn't tear it down, then did I tear it down? Yi Daoling sneered. Third uncle, you did. Fang Yan said with a serious face. This kind of thing couldn't be admitted even if he died. At this time he couldn't be shameless. I saw it with my own eyes. This door was hit by your chi and then collapsed. Third uncle, you have to touch your conscience when you speak, Fang Yan said solemnly. I just want to see your gentle side, but third uncle insisted that I compete with you. I was forced to accept your extremely unreasonable condition. The door was indeed knocked down by my chi, but think about it seriously, third uncle, was my chi aimed at you at that time? My Tai Chi storm's target was third uncle and the target was also third uncle. When the Tai Chi storm surrounded third third uncle used the white tiger swallows the moon that you had been accumulating for a long time inside the storm. Third uncle is good at martial arts and forcibly tore a hole in my Tai Chi storm. However, because he used too much force in the Tai Chi storm, it caused the Tai Chi storm to explode, the domain disappeared and the Qi leaked out. This caused the Yi family's door to be destroyed. I know third uncle didn't do it on purpose. You just wanted to change the old house's door, right? Yes. Yes. That's right. Yi Fengsheng echoed on the side. I said it before, Yi family should change to a more imposing door. Shut up. Yi Daoling glared at Yi Fengsheng and shouted angrily. He knew that Yi Fengsheng and Fang Yan had a very good relationship. This kid still dared to help an outsider in front of him. It really made him angry. Yi Fengsheng was extremely afraid of Yi Daoling. After being scolded, he gave Fang Yan a look, indicating that he should quickly slip away and not take this kind of trouble on himself. If the Yi family was serious about the matter of tearing down the door, even if it was brought to Sir, the Yi family would still be in the right. At that time, not only would Fang Yan have to bow his head and apologize, but grandfather Fang would also have to come and apologize. At that time, where would the Fang family's face be? Fang Yan understood his best friend's intentions, but he had no intention of leaving. Just as he said before seeing Yi Ro, before confirming her safety, he would not leave the Yi family no matter what. He believed in his own premonition and judgment. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan and said, "According to what you said, I was the one who tore down the door?" Fang Yan nodded and said, "You were the one who tore down the door. Since I tore it down, then I won't ask you to compensate." Fang Yan looked at Yi Daoling with a face full of astonishment. He thought, what does this uncle mean? Just now he looked like he was going to denounce me, but he was convinced with a few words. It was not the first time that Fang Yan dealt with Yi Daoling. He knew that Yi Daoling was a man with great wisdom. How could such a person be easily convinced? Yi Daowen also looked at Yi Daoling with a puzzled expression, his face revealing a thoughtful expression. Yi Daoling ignored Fang Yan's scrutinizing gaze and said in a deep voice, "You still don't want to exchange a few punches with me?" Fang Yan shook his head and said, "I don't want to." Because, Yi Daoling licked the blood stains at the corner of his mouth and said, "You feel that I am no longer qualified to be your opponent." Fang Yan had a hesitant expression and didn't directly answer his question. "You can speak frankly," Yi Daoling said. "I'm not a narrow-minded person. I'm worried about hurting third uncle. You are a gentle third uncle and also my third uncle. In the future we will still be a family. I don't want to hurt the relationship between uncle and nephew before we reach that step," Fang Yan said with a sincere expression, as if he was completely thinking for Yi Daoling's sake. Yi Daoling pointed at Fang Yan and yelled at the Yi Dao disciples, "Beat him up." The Yi Dao disciples heard Yi Daoling's order and each took out their weapons, preparing to attack Fang Yan. "Bastard," an old voice resounded. With the help of a servant girl, the ancestor of the Yi family tiptoed over to this side. Yi Daoling quickly ran over to greet him and scolded, "Ancestor, why did you come out in the middle of the night? What if you get cold from the wind? Can I not come out?" The ancestor pointed at Yi Daowen, then at Yi Daoling and said, "You're already so old, yet you're still arguing with a child, aren't you ashamed?" Yi Daoling had an innocent expression and said, "Ancestor, I was just standing here watching the show, but I didn't say a word. Watching the show is also your fault." The ancestor said rudely, "The Fang family's boy is worried about Wen Wan's safety and came to visit out of goodwill. Is this how you treat your guests? Is this how we Yi family's men treat our guests?" Yi Daoling knew that the ancestor was difficult to deal with, but he still braced himself and said, "Ancestor, Fang Yan doesn't have any good intentions. Letting him visit Wen Wan is like a weasel paying a visit to a chicken. Pa pa pa, you're the weasel paying a visit to a chicken. I feel that the Fang family's boy is kind." The ancestor looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Fang Yan, are you sure Wen Wan is in trouble?" "Yes," Fang Yan answered firmly and said, "I just have this bad hunch. I hope Wen Wan is fine, but I'm worried that if something happens, I might be able to help by her side. Okay, come with me, I'll take you to see Wen Wan." The ancestor said. "Ancestor, this mustn't be done." Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling shouted at the same time. "Why mustn't be done?" The ancestor said with an unhappy expression. Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling looked at each other. Yi Daoling gave a look meaning to say that I've said what I should say and you're the big brother. At this time you should stand up and take some responsibility. Yi Dawen cleared his throat, walked in front of the ancestor and said in a low voice, "Ancestor, this mustn't be done. When Nuan is at the critical moment of her breakthrough. I don't think it's appropriate to be disturbed by outsiders at this time. In addition, when Nuan's retreat is in the stone room. The stone room is in a hidden location in the Yi family's ancestral temple. The Yi family's rules clearly state that only descendants of the Yi family can enter the Yi family's ancestral temple without permission." Yi Dawen looked back at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan, he's not a member of the Yi family, he's not qualified to enter the Yi family's ancestral temple." Chapter 661. Those who were not men of the Yi family could not enter the Yi family's ancestral hall. Not only did the Yi family have such a rule, but other families in Swallow Dock also had it. The Fang family also had it. If an outsider wanted to enter the Fang family's ancestral hall, the Fang family would definitely be extremely unwilling. Some strict families even had the rule that women could not enter the ancestral hall because in their view, women would eventually marry into other families. This rule was too disrespectful to women. Back then, the Thousand Leaves Division died in battle in Swallow Dock. Not to mention placing the memorial tablet in the Fang family's ancestral hall, it was impossible to even find a cemetery in Swallow Dock. Fortunately, the old drunkard Mo Qingdi took the initiative to offer his cemetery, and the many heroes of Swallow Dock maintained respect for the actions of the Thousand Leaves Division, so he was buried peacefully. The stone room used by the Yi family for seclusion was in the basement under the Yi family's ancestral hall. He had already heard this information from his friend Yi Fengxing. Yi Dawen didn't lie to him on this point. Fang Yan understood the difficulties of Yi Dawen and Yi Daoling. Because if this happened in his family, grandfather would also be in a difficult position, right? It was also because of this reason that Fang Yan spent so much time with Yi Daoling at the door. If he didn't waste so much time, he would have rushed in and hugged Yi Ro in his arms, or rather Yi Ro hugged him in her arms. He just wanted to influence or conquer Yi Daoling so that he would agree to let him see Yi Ro. Without the permission of the Yi family, he wouldn't dare to break into the ancestral hall. Otherwise, the entire Swallow Dock wouldn't let this rude and unreasonable person go. Fang Yan would become the public enemy of Swallow Dock. When the old ancestor heard Yi Dawen's words, he also hesitated for a while. He raised his eyes and glanced at Fang Yan, then looked at Yi Dawen and asked, "Is there no other way?" "No." Yi Dawen shook his head. He paused and said, "Unless Fang Yan is willing to marry into our Yi family and become a disciple of our Yi family." Fang Yan's heart suddenly tightened. "Father-in-law, don't play with your son-in-law like this, okay? Although I like your daughter very much, aren't you afraid of destroying our father-in-law and son-in-law relationship by making such a request to me? I am a very narrow-minded man." Yi Daoling chuckled and said, "If Fang Yan is willing to marry into our Yi family, there will naturally be no problem with this matter. I will even no longer oppose him and when Ro dash." The main reason why the Yi family did not agree to Fang Yan and Yi Ro being together was because they did not want the martial artist with the greatest potential and future in their family to become someone else's. It had been hundreds of years and the Yi family only had the chance to produce a martial artist who was in the Tao of Heaven, but he was going to be tricked by that bastard from the Fang family or some other bastard from another family. Who the hell could tolerate something like this? How many people in the Tao of Heaven were there in the world? This was not cutting flesh, this was digging out the heart. The Yi family needed an elite in the Tao of Heaven, and they needed Yi Wenru to protect the Yi family. In that case, the status of the Yi family would rise again. Those who knew the truth would look at the Yi family in a new light. Even the elders behind the red wall would look at the Yi family in a new light. After all, the country or they themselves also needed the help of an elite in the Tao of Heaven to deal with some troublesome matters. And in Neijiang, having an elite in the Tao of Heaven was equivalent to having a gold medal. Who would dare to provoke a family with an elite in the Tao of Heaven? When Mo Lightly Enemy was promoted to the Tao of Heaven, how glorious was the Fang family? How could the Fang family hold their heads up high? Mo Lightly Enemy waited at home for a year, but no one came to challenge him. He had just been promoted to the Tao of Heaven. This was like a woman who had just bought a dress or a man who had just bought a luxury watch. No one came to ask him to go shopping or play cards. How could he have the chance to show off his new love in front of others? Therefore Mo Qingdi conquered the world alone with his sword, killing in all directions. It was also during that period that Imo Qingdi killed his way overseas and fought against the 36 islands of the East Ocean. He won every battle he fought. It was only when he encountered the Thousand Leaves army that he wasted some time. If Fang Yan and Yi Rou got married, Yi Rou would naturally marry into the Fang family. In that case, would Yi Rou belong to the Fang family or the Yi family? If she belonged to the Fang family, then the Yi family's expectations would naturally be disappointed. The Yi family's strength would be greatly reduced. The Yi family's meticulous nurturing and care. People outside could fight fiercely for a house or a car. These families could do anything for an elite in the Tao of Heaven. Think about it, Yi Rou, who had broken through the obstacles and entered the Tao of Heaven, could become another Mo lightly enemy. She could become a black dragon, a divine dragon, an existence even more terrifying than them. Such a talent. Even countries were fighting over him, not to mention small families like theirs. Yi Daoling was a politician. Politicians cared about gains and losses the most. In his heart, Fang Yan was also a first-class talent. It could even be said that he was the most outstanding young man he had ever seen. If he was a member of the Yi family, Yi Daoling would wake up laughing even in his dreams. However, he was a member of the Fang family. He could even steal Yi Rou from the Yi family. This couldn't be. Absolutely not. However, if he could marry into the Yi family, not only would the Yi family not lose Yi Rou, they would also have Fang Yan. Yi Daoling would probably dream every night, and every time he dreamed he would wake up laughing. Hearing Yi Daoling's suggestion, the Yi family's children were all full of joy. Some of them were on good terms with Fang Yan, some were not on good terms with Fang Yan. However, no matter if they liked Fang Yan or hated Fang Yan, they had to admit Fang Yan's value. He was the #1 male maniac in Swallow Fort. Even Bai Xiu was killed by him. Even Yi Fengxing, the simple-minded fellow, couldn't help but grin. He thought to himself, my brother is indeed not an ordinary person. In order to win Fang Yan over, first uncle and third uncle both agreed to his marriage with my sister. However, after thinking about it, he felt that something was wrong. If Fang Yan married into the Yi family, then what about the Fang family? The Fang family was not as big and prosperous as the Yi family. Their Fang family only had one son, Fang Yan. If Fang Yan became a member of the Yi family, then the Fang family would be cut off. Not good. This is not good. Yi Fengxing shook his head and sighed in his heart. The old ancestor looked at Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan, what do you say? Are you going to enter the ancestral hall or not? Do you want to see Rou Rou or not? Fang Yan bowed to the old ancestor and said apologetically, Fang Yan blames himself for disturbing the old ancestor's rest in the middle of the night. When the sun rises, I will kowtow to the old ancestor to apologize. Thank the old ancestor for speaking up for me. Thank the old ancestor for protecting and loving me. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling and said, I understand first uncle and third uncle's difficulties. Only direct descendants can enter the ancestral hall. The Yi clan has such a rule, our Fang clan also has such a rule, and the other clans of Swallow Dock also have such a rule. I, Fang Yan, am a person with no authority. I cannot allow others to remove these rules for my sake. Big Brother said that as long as you are willing to marry into the Yi family, I am willing to personally lead you into the ancestral hall and let you see Rou Rou. Yi Daoling did not forget to persuade Fang Yan and said with a smile, Thank you, uncle, and thank you, third uncle. Thank you for giving me such a good suggestion. But I cannot agree. Fang Yan said with a firm expression. My grandfather had 2 brothers. He also had an older brother, but he died young, leaving only one daughter to marry abroad. She had no contact with the Fang family for many years. My father was the only son in my grandfather's family, and all 3 of my aunts were married. 3 years ago, my father was killed by Bai Xiu at the entrance of Swallow Dock. The old drunkard in my heart has always been my uncle and my father's brother. He went to the land of extreme cold. I don't know if he can come back. I am the only one left in the Fang family. I cannot marry into the Yi family. I need to stay at home to take care of the elderly. I need to stay at home to inherit the bloodline. I need to carry forward the essence of Fang's Tai Chi. I need people to mention the Fang family and not say that there is no man in the family. I am the face of the Fang family. I am a flag raised by the Fang family. I have too many responsibilities on my shoulders and they're too heavy. So, I cannot marry into the Yi family. Hearing what Fang Yan said, everyone was not surprised at all. If Fang Yan agreed, it could only prove 2 points. First, there was something wrong with Fang Yan's head. Second, there was something wrong with Fang Yan's character. He abandoned his father and mother and was willing to marry into the Fang family for a woman. Was such a man worthy of trust and entrustment? Hearing Fang Yan's words, Yi Daoling felt it was reasonable. He felt some pity in his heart. He sighed and said, Fang Yan, you have your reasons not to marry into the Fang family. We also have our reasons not to let you in. We understand you and you have to understand us. So let's drop this matter. We don't need you to pay for the door. It's getting late. Even the ancestor got up to stay up with you. Go back quickly. Let our Yi family return to peace. I can't go back. Fang Yan said stubbornly, I still want to enter the Yi family's ancestral hall. I also want to see Yi Gentle. I feel that she is in danger. If I leave at this time, the ancestor sighed softly and said, Little Yendi, I know you are infatuated with Gentle. But this matter is really difficult to deal with. How about, ancestor, this time, let me use my own method to solve the problem. Fang Yan bowed to the ancestor again and said with a smile after getting up. His smile was very faint but also very warm. It made people feel happy. What method do you have? The ancestor asked curiously. Fang Yan looked at the many Yi family men present and said, You have the rules to not let me in. I also have my reasons to go in. So if I force my way in, you can't stop me. Fang Yan, don't you dare. Yi Daoling was furious. Is this kid crazy? Fang Yan's figure had already disappeared on the spot, rushing towards where Yi Daoling was standing. Chapter 662. Fang Yan was a scholar and scholars liked to reason with people. Convincing people with reason or clothes. Fighting and killing were what barbarians did. Of course, this was under the condition that he could reason with them. If he couldn't reason with them, then he could only choose to use his fists. Fang Yan really despised himself at this time. He felt like a barbarian. His body swooped down and charged in Yi Daoling's direction. Why did he choose Yi Daoling? Because Yi Daoling was completely unprepared, and in the process of fighting just now, he had roughly figured out Yi Daoling's martial arts. Most importantly, Yi Daoling had an inner demon towards him. This was human nature. When people faced people who were stronger than them or had beaten them, they would always feel a little unconfident. Because he had already lost, he still subconsciously felt that he was inferior to others. Yi Daoling was indeed unprepared. Not only was he unprepared, but Yi Daowen and the other Yi family juniors were also unprepared. None of them thought that Fang Yan would dare to make such an irrational choice in front of more than half of the Yi family's men. Breaking into the Yi family's gate at night, entering the Yi family's ancestral hall, and challenging more than 20 men of the Yi family by himself. Did he not want to live? You're going too far. Hearing Fang Yan's words, Yi Daowen's expression was extremely ugly. Yi Daowen really didn't like this arrogant and despotic guy at all. What should a young man be like? Humble, low-key, polite, and gentle. Just like a piece of high-quality unpolished jade, it looked simple on the outside, but once the outer skin was cut open, one would find that the inside was overflowing with color. In comparison, Yi Daowen liked Bai Xiu more. Even though Bai Xiu had already been killed by Fang Yan. Fang Yan was a diamond. It looked like it was shining with golden light, but most of the time diamonds could hurt people. Yi Daowen had heard some things about Fang Yan and Yi Rou, and knew that this pair of youngsters had been very close recently. He didn't know what magic Fang Yan used, but it actually made his daughter, who had always hated him, change her attitude towards him. Of course, that was just a rumor. As a father, he didn't want to meddle too much in the affairs of the young. Yi Rou was very young and so was Fang Yan. If Fang Yan wanted to marry Yi Daowen's daughter, then he would have to obtain the consent of the Yi clan. However, Fang Yan broke into the Yi family at night for Yi Rou, which made him as her father feel all kinds of emotions. Fang Yan. The young men of the Yi family were so angry that their faces turned green. What do you mean by, you can't stop me? Do you think the Yi clan is dead? Fang Yan, you arrogant guy. Yi Zi clenched her fists, her face flushed with anger. Because of her sister Yi Wenru, she also loved Fang Yan. However, she was a member of the Yi family after all. After hearing Fang Yan's words, how could she not be angry? Big brother, you can't do this. Yi Fengxing was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. Was this kid crazy? Even if your strength is not bad, even if the Yi family really can't stop you, don't say it on the spot, right? Don't hit people in the face, understand? Fang Yan, you barbarian. Before Yi Daoling could say a word of insult, Fang Yan had already punched towards his face. Yi Daoling swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He filled his palm and punched towards Fang Yan's fist. If it was a head-on fight, the Yi family's fierce tiger fist wouldn't be afraid of anyone. They were afraid of those who played Tai Chi. They talked about using softness to overcome hardness. They paid attention to what was fake and what was real. You punched for a long time, but you couldn't even touch the corner of the other person's clothes. When the other person took the opportunity to hit you, it was quite painful, and the injuries were all important internal organs. Yi Daoling thought that Fang Yan didn't dare to fight head-on with him. He thought that Fang Yan's punch was a bluff to attract his attention. When he punched out in defense, Fang Yan would change his move. The smile on Fang Yan's face became wider. He opened his mouth slightly as if he was saying something. Because Fang Yan's speed was too fast and there was the sound of wind in his ears, Yi Daoling couldn't understand what he was saying. Can't get up. Yi Daoling heard the word, can't get up. What can't get up? Is he mocking me for not being able to get up? Yi Daoling's eyes broke through and his hair stood on end. Fang Yan didn't retract his fist, nor did he change his move. He was really throwing a punch at his own fist. Is he going to fight head-on with me? Yi Daoling's fist was burning in pain. Yi Daoling felt a powerful force pressing towards his fist. It was a serious blow to his self-esteem. The Yi family's fierce tiger fist was famous for being hard and fierce. If it was a hard fight, who would be afraid of who? Yi Daoling sank his energy into his dantian and quickly gathered all the strength in his body into his fist. More strength. More strength. He even used all of his strength to drink milk. Yi Daoling's fist became smaller and smaller, and finally turned into a fiery red ball like a ripe tomato. White tiger swallows the moon. This was the strongest and fiercest punch of the ferocious tiger fist. It gathered all the energy in one's body into one fist, and with a single strike, it could destroy the heavens and earth. Of course, the creator of the ferocious tiger fist was just bragging. But the power was extremely strong. The Tai Chi storm created by Fang Yan with the help of the Tai Chi heart was punched open by his fist. This showed how extraordinary it was. Fang Yan did have the idea of fighting head-on. Although Tai Chi was about using softness to overcome hardness, there was also a type of Tai Chi that used hardness to overcome hardness. This was the so-called hard Tai Chi. This was the case in any field. When your strength reached the peak, everything would be under your control. Whether it was soft or hard, soft before hard, hard before soft, it all depended on a single thought. Drunken crane riding the wind. Fang Yan's body swayed left and right. Looked like he was going from one point to another. From point A to point B, there were no afterimages in the middle and there were no illusions. This did not mean that drunken crane riding the wind was inferior to other footwork. On the contrary, drunken crane riding the wind was the most brilliant footwork Fang Yan had ever seen. Extreme speed did not leave a shadow because the shadow would disappear before it could appear. In the eyes of outsiders, Fang Yan's body swayed and he had already jumped in front of Yi Daoling. Fang Yan punched out. Their fists collided at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. Fang Yan's fist was white. The size and shape were completely normal. Yi Daoling's fist was red like a ripe tomato or a lit red candle. Bang! Their fists collided. Their bodies did not move at all. Because of the powerful strength chi attached to the fist, when the strength chi was released, it naturally produced a strong suction force, causing their bodies to not only not be repelled, but instead be attracted to each other and stick to each other in a loving manner. However, this suction force was extremely short. It might only be a few tenths of a second or even shorter. A majestic and powerless force was released from their fists. Their bodies were suddenly pushed out by the force. Boom! The energy exploded. Fang Yan's body flew out and Yi Daoling's body also flew out. The energy contained in Yi Daoling's fist dissipated and his fist returned to its original state. Fang Yan finished releasing the energy in his fist and his body flew in the air. At this moment something strange happened again. Yi Daoling's fist that had just returned to its original state turned fiery red again. In that instant he actually gathered a huge amount of power again. White tiger swallows the moon again. Yi Daoling actually hid his strength. He had cultivated for many years and the power contained in his body could guarantee that he could use white tiger swallows the moon twice in a row. His body paused in the air and then like a cannonball he once again blasted towards Fang Yan's head. Crack crack crack. The energy around the fist surged. The fiery energy burned the air it touched in the process, making crackling sounds. Fang Yan felt danger. Yi Daoling's white tiger swallows the moon was used again, which was what we often called second drive. Of course, this move was more advanced than second drive, because second drive was used when the first force was reserved and the body's remaining strength was used again. The main purpose was to use it when fighting with others. The person who used this move was very powerful, vicious and shameless. White tiger swallows the moon was used again after the first all-out attack. It was similar to exploding the small universe and burning the instinct of life. Whoa! The heart of Tai Chi felt danger and quickly spun again. Once the Taiji domain was unleashed, everything in the world would become its subordinates. Fang Yan's body danced and spun in the air. His right hand clenched into a fist and collided with Yi Daoling's white tiger swallows the moon again. Whoosh! The punch was silent, no different from a mortal. You've been tricked. Yi Daoling's body was like a white tiger pouncing towards Fang Yan like a thunderbolt. But their fists collided again. Yi Daoling felt something was wrong the moment they made contact. Something was very wrong. His white tiger swallows the moon was a technique that used his body's strength to use the second force. This was his secret. It was an ultimate move that he rarely showed to the outside world. Other than a few people in the Yi family, no one else knew that he was this powerful. Hiding. As a wise politician, one must understand the principle of not using all one's strength and leaving one's strength to spare. Unlike those young people who showed all their strength and revealed all their trump cards to others. It was very dangerous. Young people must know how to hide. Fang Yan had just finished exchanging blows with him, so he should be in a state of emptiness, where he had used up all his strength and had yet to generate new strength. Why was he still able to give him so much pressure? Bang! Fang Yan's body stopped in midair, while Yi Daoling's body flew towards the ground like a ball that was knocked out. Plang! Yi Daoling's body fell heavily to the ground. The blue stone plate shattered into several pieces. Yi Daoling vomited blood. He looked at the night sky unwillingly and asked with grief and indignation, "How is this possible?" Chapter 663. Fang Yan was a low-key man. He would never take the initiative to show off to others. For example, did he tell others that he had a beautiful girlfriend like Yi Wenro? He only took her to every corner of Swallow Dock that could be seen with the naked eye. What was helpless was that his kung fu was too amazing. Every breakthrough was earth-shattering. The 7 stars aligned and the sun and moon shone. The commotion was too big. Fang Yan couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. The light of Tai Chi opened up the Ren and Du meridians and all the shackles of the human body, allowing one's Qi to circulate endlessly in the body. His body was a closed circulatory system. After the old power was used up, new power would be produced. After the old Qi was used up, new Qi would be produced. For Fang Yan, there was never a time when he could use his Qi completely. Not to mention that Yi Daoling could only use white tiger swallowing the moon. Even if he could use white tiger swallowing the moon, or white tiger swallowing the moon, it would be meaningless to him. For a normal person, the gap period between the old and new power didn't exist at all. He could exchange punches with Yi Daoling, and in the end the strong would defeat the weak. Yi Daoling knew that Fang Yan had broken through again and knew that he had used the light of Tai Chi. However, what kind of miraculous kung fu was the light of Tai Chi, and what kind of state would appear after comprehending it? It was unfamiliar to Yi Daoling and even to Fang Yan. This was because Fang Yan was walking on a completely different path compared to his predecessors. Yi Daoling was unwilling, but the rest of the Yi family were very discouraged. Among the 3 tigers of the Yi family, Yi Daoxian's kung fu was ranked first, Yi Daowen was ranked second, and Yi Daoling could only be ranked last. Being ranked last didn't mean that his kung fu wasn't brilliant. Because he was a politician, he used to be in charge of an office under the state minister, and he helped the state minister make suggestions for national policies. 3 years ago, Fang Yan forced Mr. Gong and forcefully helped Yi Daoling snatch an important position from the general family. He was now an important figure in the financial field of Wuxia, and could even affect the country's economy. In such a position, the workload every day was extremely heavy. It was indeed an extremely difficult task for him to achieve such achievements in martial arts while doing his job well. Yi Daoling was unwilling. He didn't understand why he would lose to that bastard. How did he use his strength twice in such a short period of time? Moreover, a fellow who learned Tai Chi actually used a head-on to beat him, an elder who had trained in the fierce tiger fist of the Yi for decades. Didn't he have any shame? Didn't he have any professional ethics? Fang Yan's attack was successful. Before his body landed on the ground, he was already dashing towards the inner courtyard. Yi tiger, he Yi. The disciples of the Yi clan were furious and wanted to chase after them. The Yen said. All said the Taoist. Although his voice was not loud, it was clearly heard by every disciple of the Yi family. Yi to he to tiang. Yen, king to say he ti he fu to say he is, fu, was you. He yen to he yen, was, how he, this kid dared to break into our Yi family's ancestral hall. He is sincere to win. How many good men can a woman meet in her life? If you meet one, then marry him. Old ancestor, the old ancestor waved his hand and said, I'm old and won't live for more than a few years. I don't even know if I can make it through this winter. Your dad doesn't care about the family now. He has handed over nearly 100 members of the Yi family to you. You brothers have your own ideas and your own plans. I won't get involved in these things. Little Yanzi broke in himself. You can beat or scold him, it's up to you. But one thing, don't hurt my Wen. The Taoist glanced at Yi Daoling, who was lying on the ground, and snorted. You practiced for so many years, but you can't even beat a brat. Aren't you ashamed? Yi Daoling closed his eyes and pretended not to hear what the Taoist was saying. Yi, come back to sleep with me, the Taoist said. Yezi agreed and helped the old ancestor walk toward her room in the backyard. After the ancestor left, all the Yi family disciples in the courtyard looked towards Yi Daowen, waiting for his order, to chase after him or retreat. Yi Daowen waved his hand and said, be in charge of wind sound. Everyone guard your post. As for Wen Nuo, I don't think that kid would dare to act recklessly. Yi Fengxing smiled and agreed. He clapped his hands and shouted, disperse, disperse, everyone disperse. The disciples of the Yi clan were dissatisfied, but they could only disperse. Yi Daowen walked to Yi Daoling's side and squatted down. He looked at the blood at the corner of his mouth and asked, are you all right? I'm fine. Yi Daoling panted lightly. This kid has improved again. It seemed like the Tai Chi light had transformed his bodily functions and unlocked the layers of shackles in his body. There were countless meridians and acupoints in the human body. If one was blocked, then hundreds would be blocked. If one was blocked, then hundreds would be unblocked. He was completely unobstructed. I could feel that he had used his full strength when he had punched me. If it was a normal person, it would be impossible for him to gather his aura again so quickly. This battle, it was not unjust that he lost. Yi Daowen sighed and said, he is a talent. He is simply a genius. Yi Daoling said. He might be the second Mo Qingdi. Yi Daowen's expression was grave as he said, you think so highly of him. I think his achievements might be above Mo Qingdi. Yi Daoling said. A person with talent isn't scary, and knowing how to work hard isn't scary. The scariest thing is that even the heavens are looking after him. Think about it, how many times has he broken through in these years? How many opportunities has he encountered? As the old saying goes, where there is a will, there is a will. However, as the old saying goes, everything is predestined. This child is a person with good fortune. It's a pity. Yi Daowen said. Yes, it's a pity. Fang Yan is not a disciple of my Yi clan. The Fang clan has a Fang Yan, the Yi clan must have a Yi Wen Nuo. Yi Daowen said firmly. Yi Daoling smiled bitterly and said, the ancestor seems to like that kid a lot. The ancestor said that he will no longer participate in these matters. Yi Daowen said, we have to think about the future of the Yi clan. Then I can only wrong Nuo Nuo. Yi Wen Nuo's condition was getting worse and worse. It was difficult for her to see, difficult for her ears to hear, and difficult for her brain to think. In her brain, countless scenes of Fang Yan flashed. Fang Yan who had turned into a white crane, Fang Yan who had turned into a young deer, Fang Yan who had turned into a malicious spirit, Fang Yan who had a knife on his neck. They flashed quickly in front of you so you couldn't see anything clearly. They kept talking in your ears so you could only hear noises. He was a curse in your mind, a nightmare in the depths of your soul. Choice. He had to make a choice. Either he broke the neck of the white crane or he sucked the hot blood of the young deer, or he cut off the head of the enemy. He had to make a decision. Otherwise he would be punished by the laws of the heavens. With one sword strike, everything would be cleansed. She would no longer have to endure this endless pain and worry. She would pry into the heavens and become the youngest person to conquer the heavens, and she would be a woman. Yiro. These 3 words were likely to be recorded in the annals of history. She could flash her name in the long river of history like countless martial arts sages, and be admired and worshipped by future generations. She could challenge the divine dragon, or she could challenge the black dragon. She could defeat them and replace them. However, in that case she would have to give up on Fang Yan. She had to cut off her emotions, cut off her roots, and become an immortal without emotions and distracting thoughts. The heavens was supreme, so it made people feel that it was unreachable. It was precisely because of this characteristic that if she wanted to conquer the heavens, she could only wholeheartedly serve the Tao. The divine dragon wholeheartedly served the Tao, the black dragon wholeheartedly served the Tao, and Mo Qingdi wholeheartedly served the Tao back then. If it wasn't for a woman messing up his Tao heart, perhaps he wouldn't have lost so miserably in the battle against the divine dragon. Yiro also had to wholeheartedly serve the Tao and let go of all her emotions and desires. Yiro couldn't bear to. How could she give up? They had just started. She had just experienced the beauty of being in love, the shyness of blushing, and the pleasure of her heart racing. She had just become Fang Yan's girlfriend, and they hadn't even kissed seriously. She could give up on Fang Yan and choose the heavens. Or she could give up on the heavens and choose Fang Yan. Whether it was feelings or the heavens, each could only be one. This was indeed a difficult choice. Yiro's clothes were completely soaked, as if she had just been scooped out of the water. Her body rolled on the stone bed, and her expression was twisted, as if she was about to be torn apart by the 2 opposing emotions. This was the consequence of the backlash from the heavens. The critical point of breaking through meant that one of her feet had already stepped on the threshold of the heavens. Half of her body was inside the door and the other half was outside. At this time she could either barge in and become a master of the heavens, or she could be kicked out and be severely injured, or even unable to step on the path of martial arts for the rest of her life. In the process of climbing the heavens, there were countless examples of failure. Some people were lucky, and after failing they would only lose a lot of energy which could be recovered after a few days of repair. Some people were unlucky, and after failing they became lunatics or idiots. Among them there were some powerful people with outstanding talents. Because it was too painful to endure, the physical pain and mental torture kept urging people to make a decision. I can't. Yiro gritted her teeth and said. She couldn't cut off the love, and she didn't want to give up on Fang Yan. However, if she didn't make a choice, such a tearing would drive her crazy, and the sound that had almost become an invisible electric current would burn her brain. Bang! Yiro's body rolled down from the stone bed, and fell on the floor that was also paved with stone. I can't kill. Yiro's voice was intermittent, and she even lost the strength to speak. I can't kill. Fling. The stone door was pushed open from the outside, and a figure with white hair rushed in. Chapter 664. One step forward is heaven, one step back is hell. These were the 2 different results of climbing the heavenly axiom and the different feelings brought about by the different results. Some people would feel that it was strange. Since it was so difficult to climb the heavenly Tao, why didn't one just give up when it was difficult to make a decision? If it didn't work this time, he would climb it next time. If it didn't work next time, he would try again the next time. This time I'm asking you to sever your emotions. Next time I might just ask you to cut off your hair and cut off your hemorrhoids. At least it's much easier to accept than becoming a stone person with a heart of ice in a jade pot, right? If it was really that easy, then why would countless people sigh about how difficult the heavens Tao was? He could climb whenever he wanted. Why would there be the critical point of breakthrough that people often talked about? When are you going to break through? Whether or not there was a chance to break through was a kind of intuition, a kind of epiphany. There were people who cultivated arduously their entire lives and suddenly had an epiphany on their deathbed. They would sit on a wall in fear and climb to the heavenly Tao realm overnight. There were also young children who unknowingly entered the heavenly Tao realm. Of course, that sort of situation was extremely rare, and it was a special case. Martial artists like Yiro, who had already begun to climb the heavenly way at such a young age, were also very rare. Most of them began to take this step in their prime at the age of 34. This was because the martial artists of that period were sufficiently knowledgeable and had accumulated sufficiently. Whether it was their mental state or physical strength, they were at their peak. All the basic conditions were prepared to the best, and when the opportunity came, he would take the next step steadily. Only then would his chances of success be higher. If he failed, then not only would he not be able to enter the realm of the Heavens Dao, he would even be injured by the Heavens Dao. That would truly be a huge loss. This was also the reason why the Yi family attached so much importance to Yi Rou's breakthrough. No one wanted to bear the loss of failure. Even if Yi Rou didn't ascend to heaven now, she was still a Dao-seeking realm expert. With her talent, it was only a matter of time before she entered the heavenly Dao realm. However, if he failed in his ascent, not only would the Yi family lose a heavenly Dao realm expert, but they would also lose a Dao querying realm expert. It was easy to find Dao querying realm experts, but it was difficult to find such a young and outstanding Dao querying realm expert. I can't kill you. I can't kill you. Yi Rou's body rolled on the stone floor. She held her head desperately with both hands, wishing she could pull her head off her neck. She could not kill Fang Yan. She could not bear to cut off her love for him. With one slash he would forget all his emotions for life. Otherwise, the backlash from the heavenly Dao would be even more intense. It was too painful. He felt as if his head was about to explode. Countless images spun in his mind, countless voices screamed in his ears, and a tidal wave of information rushed into his brain. She was about to go crazy. Yi Rou's body began to sweat profusely and a large amount of sweat oozed out. When the water in the body was completely discharged, it began to emit smoke. The smoke first dried up her clothes, then her body, turning her whole body red. She looked like a shrimp. When Fang Yan pushed open the stone door and barged in, he saw white smoke billowing in the room. The entire stone room was shrouded in smoke. Yi Rou. Fang Yan called out. The stone room was not big and the thick smoke could not block his sharp eyes. Hearing the sound of rolling on the floor, he rushed over and picked Yi Rou up. Yi Rou? When Fang Yan's hand touched Yi Rou's body, he felt a burning sensation. It was like hugging a small sun. How hot was it? Even so, Fang Yan was still reluctant to put Yi Rou's body back on the floor. Yi Rou? Fang Yan called out Yi Rou's name loudly. Yi Rou, wake up. What's wrong with you? Her head was muddled and she had gradually lost her sense of self. She just kept shouting words like, I can't kill you, over and over again to strengthen her belief, because she was worried that she would lose control of her actions after falling into chaos. Her eyes became darker and her head became heavier and heavier. She felt she was about to die, because her neck was choked by the malicious ghost that Fang Yan transformed into. Her throat was dry and burning and she could hardly breathe. In her hazy consciousness she heard Fang Yan's voice. Fang Yan. Yi Rou called out. Her voice was hoarse and blood oozed out of her mouth when she spoke. Her mouth was full of blood, which flowed out from the corners of her mouth, which was a ghastly sight. Yi Rou, you'll be fine. Fang Yan hugged Yi Rou tightly, wanting her to feel his strength and to know that he was with her. One of Fang Yan's palms pressed on Yi Rou's back, trying to transfer his true qi into her body and gather their strength to overcome this difficulty together. However, just as the vital energy in his palm was released and touched her body, it was violently pushed back by a strong and unparalleled force. After squeezing out Fang Yan's strength, it didn't stop there. It even wanted to attack the insides of Fang Yan's body through his palm. It was like a blood-sucking bug that wanted to occupy Fang Yan's body. Now Yi Rou was like a living mountain in its active phase. Her body was full of raging waves and raging flames. Her body formed a self-cycle and formed an independent little universe. If no external force intervened, it would continue to stay in this state. The temperature would get higher and higher and the waves would get bigger and bigger. It might also gradually extinguish and die. If external force intervened, it would become violent and restless. It would become a ferocious monster, baring its teeth and roaring, devouring all the enemies who tried to offend it. Fang Yan's palms were bounced off and he felt a burning pain in his palms. Yi Rou. Fang Yan exclaimed. He didn't dare to try again because if he was careless, the force he transferred into Yi Rou's body might cause a volcanic eruption. What would Yi Rou be like after the volcanic eruption? Fang Yan didn't dare to imagine. Yi Rou's body lay weakly in Fang Yan's arms. Because of the bleeding in her mouth, it was difficult for her to even speak. She could only hold Fang Yan tightly and put her burning purplish-red arms around Fang Yan's waist. Even if I die, Yi Rou thought, at least I won't have any regrets. Thinking of this, the pain on Yi Rou's face eased a lot, and her struggling and twisting body calmed down a lot. Yi Rou, you'll be fine. I won't let anything happen to you, Fang Yan said in a sorrowful and indignant voice with determination in his eyes. Nothing can trouble me. Just hold on for a while and give me some time. Yes, Fang Yan needed time. He couldn't use Tai Chi to calm the riot in her internal organs, and ordinary medical skills and medicines couldn't bring down her fever. It was too late to spend a lot of money to hire that greedy doctor. What should I do? What should I do? Spring on a withered tree. An idea flashed across Fang Yan's mind. Suddenly he thought of the unique Taoist skill, spring on a withered tree, that the old Taoist had performed in front of him. Even a withered tree could be rejuvenated, so it shouldn't be difficult for Yi Rou, who had fallen into a demon, to return to her normal state. However, the old Taoist was on Xianxia Mountain, or in other places. That old guy was elusive and didn't like to use high-tech communication tools. Even if he could find him, it would be several days later. With Yi Rou's current physical condition, even if she was much stronger than ordinary people, she wouldn't be able to hold on for more than 2 hours. What could Fang Yan do in 2 hours? He wanted to use spring on a withered tree to cure Yi Rou, to calm her inner fire, and to expel the demon in her heart. But he didn't know how to do it. He only comprehended the first stage, withered tree. But how did he achieve the second stage, spring on a withered tree? How could she regain her vitality after losing her life? Fang Yan blamed himself in his heart. If he had worked harder, if he hadn't been bothered by so many things, if he had focused on practicing martial arts, if he had stayed by the old Taoist side to observe and learn more, maybe he would have comprehended the essence of spring on a withered tree. In that case, he would have been able to save Yi Rou. Why didn't I do that? Fang Yan wanted to slap himself dozens of times. Yi Rou's body was getting hotter and hotter, and the black exercise clothes she was wearing began to wrinkle and crack due to the loss of moisture. Even so, her hands were still holding Fang Yan's waist tightly. She didn't show any signs of letting go. Her breathing was getting weaker and weaker. Fang Yan put his hand on Yi Rou's chest, but he couldn't feel her heartbeat. Yi Rou. Fang Yan roared hoarsely. Watching the woman he loved the most die in his arms without being able to do anything, this was harder to accept than 1,000 arrows piercing through his heart. Fang Yan, you idiot, don't pull my braid. Fang Yan, you bastard, how dare you pick my plum blossom. Fang Yan, get up. Don't lie on the ground and pretend to be dead. Fang Huohua, I'm going to kill you. Fang Yan. Fang Yan's eyes were bloodshot and big drops of tears fell down. Tears fell on Yi Rou's face. Yi Rou's eyelids moved with difficulty, but she still couldn't open her eyes. Yi Rou? Fang Yan gnashed his teeth and said, you can't die. You said you would kill me 126 times, but you haven't done it. So you can't die. Fang Yan picked up Yi Rou's body and laid her on the stone bed. Then he put his palm flat on Yi Rou's belly button. Move a mountain. Fang Yan wanted to move the volcano in Yi Rou's body into his own. Since the volcano needed to erupt, he would erupt in his body. Chapter 665. Sharing Life and Death. Most of these words appeared in movies or in the lyrics of musicians. In reality, how many people could do it? If you were alive, we would share joys and sorrows. If you were dead, another person would come to comfort you. However, if you really loved someone, you would be willing to do anything for her, including sacrifice. Don't laugh at the scenes in movies and TV dramas where people took the bullet for their lover. In reality, such people did exist. They were extremely rare, but they were also more precious. Fang Yan was one of them. Fang Yan only comprehended the dead wood, but he didn't understand spring. Therefore he came up with a compromise. He transferred the volcano in Yi Rou's body to himself and let himself bear the pain and all the consequences of the eruption of the volcano. In this way, Yi Rou could escape the heavenly tribulation and stand in front of him in a lovely and cold way again. He liked Yi Rou's arrogant look so much. Wearing plain black or white clothes, with a cold expression and indifferent eyes staring at you, as if this person is not familiar with me at all, even if the two of us have confirmed the relationship of love. However, when they were in front of others, they still walked separately. Yi Rou walked in front and Fang Yan followed or walked beside her. Fang Yan wanted to reach out and hold her little hand several times, but she brushed it off without hesitation. She disdains to show off to others that she has an excellent boyfriend. Fang Yan always comforted himself in this way. Fang Yan pressed his palm on Yi Rou's belly button. The fire in her dantian burned more fiercely and the clothes there were burnt. As soon as Fang Yan's palm touched it, the clothes suddenly burned into ashes. Yi Rou's round belly button and purple-red skin were naked in front of Fang Yan. Fang Yan's hand directly pressed on Yi Rou's skin. Yi Rou slightly raised her eyebrows but soon returned to normal. Her remaining consciousness told her what was happening, but there was no room for her to resist. The temperature was still gradually increasing, and Fang Yan's palms could feel a scorching heat wave. Bang! As soon as his palm came into contact with it, a powerful force struck his palm. It was as if a hand stretched out from Yi Rou's belly button and slapped hard on Fang Yan's palm. The energy released by Fang Yan was dispersed and mercilessly expelled from Yi Rou's body. Just like last time, the energy was extremely overbearing. It wanted to enter Fang Yan's body through Fang Yan's arm and occupy a new body. Although Yi Rou was young, her cultivation was not low. The energy in his body was abundant and his Xianxia surged. He was truly not someone easy to deal with. Fang Yan's first attempt failed, so he pressed his palm on her belly button again. But that powerful force pushed forward again. Fang Yan pressed down hard and at the same time, exerted strength in his palm. Fang Yan poured his true qi into Yi Rou's dantian, and the true qi in Yi Rou's body surged toward him. Fang Yan increased his strength and the boiling hot qi also increased its strength. Fang Yan increased his strength again and the counterattack was also stronger and more majestic. Back and forth, the two of them played an interesting game that wasn't very clever. Fang Yan concentrated his qi in his dantian and gathered all his strength on his right palm that was pressing on Yi Rou's belly button. Whoosh! The powerful qi swept over and rushed toward Yi Rou's belly button. The volcano in Yi Rou's body became angry. It felt that its dignity was being challenged. Boom! The volcano drew strength from all the meridians and acupoints in Yi Rou's body and crushed toward Fang Yan's palm with great force. If you are hard, I will be harder. If you are strong, I will be stronger. This was a fight of life and death. Logically speaking, Fang Yan should have used his energy again to support himself. However, after he released his energy to attract all the power of the volcano inside Yi Rou, he suddenly withdrew his energy. In an instant, he retracted the energy that he had released, and the huge energy roamed around his body. It was like a torrent of water, destroying his body organs without restraint. Ew! Fang Yan groaned and a stream of blood spurted out of the corner of his mouth. Not only that, but the true qi of the volcano that Fang Yan had seduced was also brought into his body. He had succeeded in the first step and successfully moved the volcano inside Yi Rou's body into his own. The true qi was not only strong but also had a smell of gunpowder. It was like a canal of molten steel or a small burning flame, swishing in Fang Yan's body. Every time it passed through, it was like a burning steel knife scraping the inside of Fang Yan's meridians. Fang Yan was scraped over and over again. Ew! W! Ew! Fang Yan spat out mouthfuls of blood, and the blood splashed on Yi Rou's face and body. He stretched out his hand wanting to help Yi Rou wipe it. Suddenly, the strength that was drawn back for the first time collided with the power of the volcano that was drawn from Yi Rou's body. But a loud sound rang out, causing Di Yan's internal organs to distort and shift along with it. A spicy taste choked his throat as if he had just swallowed a large amount of chili. His eyes, nose, mouth and ears were all spurting out blood like a small spring. Fang Yan's vision darkened and his body fell heavily to the ground. In the backyard, Yi clan's ancestral hall. Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling stood at the entrance of the Yi clan's ancestral hall. The men of the Yi clan stood in 2 rows. Except for the men who stayed behind to guard the 4 sides, everyone else was gathered here. Yi Daoling's injury was not serious because Fang Yan did not use his full strength. Otherwise, it would be normal for him to not be able to get out of bed for 3 to 5 months. Normally, the Yi clan's ancestral hall's door was closed. Except for important festivals or when a member of the family committed a great crime, it was usually not open. However, no matter what reason it was opened in the past, those who could enter the door were all members of the Yi family. There had never been an exception to this. However, the Yi clan's ancestral hall was pushed open by an outsider today. Yi Daowen looked at the open door of the ancestral hall, and his face was so gloomy that water could be squeezed out. As the person in charge of the Yi clan and the guardian of the old house, he paid the most attention to these etiquette and rules. Fang Yan's behavior was very unruly. This kid, Yi Daowen said in a low voice, we must make him give our Yi clan an explanation. His explanation is useless. We must let the Fang family's old man personally give our family an explanation. Did anyone go to the Fang family to report? Someone from their family ran to our Yi clan and acted wildly. Is there no one who came out to deal with it? Big brother, this matter is not urgent. Yi Daoling advised. Let's look at the situation first. Things have already happened. What we need to think about now is how to deal with the aftermath. As for the blame and punishment, we can push it back. The most important thing now is, what is Wen Nuo's current situation? Was it just like what Fang Yan had said? Did something happen to her during the process of breaking through? You and I both know Fang Yan. Although he is usually mischievous, he is not someone who speaks without thinking. 3 years ago he brought a group of brats from Swallow Dock to force Mr. Gong and snatched such an important position for our Yi clan. Is this something that a hot-headed brat can do? Wen Nuo will naturally be fine, Yi Daowen said firmly. He had unlimited confidence in his daughter. Wen Nuo has a calm temperament. She has never failed in something she has decided on. Yi Daoling shook his head and said, Big brother, other things are easy to say. However, the matter of seeking martial arts and seeking the Tao is indeed difficult to say. Those who can reach that step, which one of them is not a genius? What is the result? Didn't many people get into trouble? One wrong step will lead to a myriad of calamities. We have to be careful. Yi Daowen's expression became ugly and he shouted, Yi Daoling, what are you thinking? Wen Nuo's breakthrough is something that has hundreds of benefits and no harm to our Yi clan. Can't you think more positively? Big brother, I think too much positively, so I don't want anything to happen to Wen Nuo. Now that Fang Yan has already barged in, should we go in and take a look? Of course we have to go in and take a look. Yi Daowen's anger had not subsided. He was not angry at what his brother said, but at Fang Yan's reckless behavior. Yi Wen Nuo was his precious daughter and also a pillar of the Yi clan. If something went wrong because of Fang Yan's disturbance, then even chopping Fang Yan into pieces and feeding him to the fish would not be enough to vent his hatred. Then let's go in and take a look, Yi Daoling said. He led the way and took the lead to walk into the ancestral hall. Yi Daowen sighed and followed closely into the ancestral hall. Yi Fengxing and his cousins behind him looked at each other and all followed into the ancestral hall. There was an offering table in the ancestral hall with the ancestral tablets of the Yi clan's ancestors on it. There were 3 bronze incense burners on the offering table. Turning the incense burner on the far left could activate the mechanism in the basement of the Yi clan. Yi Daoling turned the incense burner 3 times to the left and 2 times to the right, and a stone door appeared in the middle of the wall. When Yi Daowen stepped into the stone door, he turned back and glared at Yi Fengxing. He scolded, Unfilial son, if it wasn't for your loose lips, how could Fang Yan find our Yi clan's secret passage? Yi Fengxing's expression was timid and he did not dare to speak. The secret passage in the Yi clan's ancestral hall was indeed revealed by him. Who told him to like to play hide and seek with Fang Yan when he was young. Passing through the stone wall, they walked into a long stone tunnel. There were 2 stone rooms at the entrance. One was used for seclusion and the other was used to avoid disaster and escape. Yi Daoling carefully pushed open the stone door on the left. After taking a look, he hurriedly closed the stone door again. Yi Daowen was shocked and asked, What happened? Be gentle with her. Her clothes are gone. Yi Daoling hesitated for a moment and said with a sigh. Chapter 666. What? Yi Daowen's expression froze, suspecting if he heard wrongly. About the children dash, Yi Daoling's voice contained a hint of comfort. Let them decide for themselves. What did you just say? Yi Daowen asked in a deep voice. Yi Daoling pointed at the thick stone door of the stone room and said in a low voice, 2 people not wearing cloths dash, hua. There was an uproar outside the stone room. Everyone who heard the news was dumbfounded. They had an expression of, how could such a thing happen on their faces? No matter how anxious Fang Yan was, he only went in for a short while and Yi Ro was already naked. Moreover, with Yi Ro's personality, how could she do that kind of thing with Fang Yan here? Even if she did it, she would do it in her room. She wasn't that kind of person. It must be Fang Yan who took advantage of his sister's unprepared dash. Cousin was unconscious when she broke through. That's why Fang Yan took advantage of it. Fang Yan, this despicable person, I already knew he wasn't a good person. Yi Fengxing tried to hold it in but still couldn't help but say, could it be, they were dual cultivating? I heard that dual cultivating can yield twice the results with half the effort. Pa. Yi Daoling slapped Yi Fengxing's head and said, what dual cultivating? That kind of evil and obscene thing. Our Yi family doesn't have that kind of technique and method to break through. Don't say such words again. If anyone spreads it, I'll skin him alive. Got it. Yi Fengxing covered his head and said. The other children of the Yi family also nodded, expressing that they wouldn't spread it. Yi Daowen was dazed at first, then the anger in his heart rose rapidly, causing his face to turn red. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he shouted, move aside. Let me go in and chop that bastard to death. Yi Daoling blocked the door and said, Big brother, since it's like this, let's handle it carefully. Carefully? How can we be careful? If it wasn't for the ancestor stopping me, I would have already. How could this happen? Yi Daoling was furious. Yi Daoling smiled bitterly and said, Ro is currently in the breakthrough phase dash. Breakthrough what? They even have the face to do such a thing. Big brother, don't be rash. There might be some hidden secrets. Go in and tie up Fang Yan. I don't care who pleads for him this time, I will fight him to the death. It's not appropriate for us to go in. Yi Daoling said. Let's get an elder to go in. Let third aunt go in to take a look and cover them with clothes. Yi Daowen didn't refuse this time. He also felt that it was not appropriate for him or any other male member of the Yi family to go in. After all, the two animals had taken off their clothes. Yi family. In the lobby. Fang Hui was drowsily sitting in his wheelchair. The Vajra eagle was also looking around listlessly. Yi Daowen's face was pitch black like the bottom of a pot. He sat on the Grand Preceptor's chair and drank tea without saying a word. Yi Daoling still maintained the respect of an elder and said in a low voice, Old man, you already know about the matter. Shouldn't you say something? Fang Hui opened his eyes and asked with a blank face, Daoling, what did you just say? Yi Daoling smiled bitterly and said, I said that Fang Yan broke into our Yi family's ancestral hall at night and did that with Wen Wan. If this gets out, will our Yi family still have the face to go out and meet people? Oh, you're talking about that matter. Fang Hui laughed loudly and said, let them decide their own matters. Our brat and Wen Wan are not people who can't make their own decisions. Why would they not have the face to meet people? Don't be surprised. Elder Fang, your words are so light. Fang Yan smashed the door of our Yi family in the middle of the night, broke into our ancestral hall, and even hugged my daughter Wen Wan. You just said, let them decide and sent him away? If this happened in your Fang family, I'm afraid Elder Fang wouldn't be happy, right? Fang Hui looked at Yi Daoling with murky eyes and said, Daoling, I know you're angry. This matter was indeed Fang Yan's fault. He was too reckless. If it was another way. Of course, if it was another way, you wouldn't agree to let an outsider enter your Yi family's ancestral hall, would you? Elder Fang. Do you think that Fang Yan should naturally enter our Yi family's ancestral hall? That won't do. Absolutely not. Every family has their own rules. Who dares to disturb the ancestors of other families? That would be a great sin. Elder Fang waved his hand and said. No matter how broad his mind was, no matter how much he spoiled his grandson Fang Yan, he still had his own traditions that he wanted to uphold. For example, the glory of the family, the peace of the ancestors, and so on. Therefore, Fang Hui actually didn't approve of his grandson Fang Yan breaking into someone else's ancestral hall. If this kind of thing happened in his Fang family, he would probably fight to the death. The Fang family was weak, so they had to fight to the death. Because that was the only way to protect the honor of the family and the peace of the ancestors. The Yi family's development was like the sun in the sky, so they didn't really care about these things. It wasn't that they didn't care about the honor of the family and the peace of the ancestors, but because they didn't need to use extreme methods to prove something. Even if Fang Yan smashed the gate of the Yi family and barged into the ancestral shrine of the Yi family, no one would say that the Yi family was in trouble or that the Yi family was being bullied. Because the Yi family was confident and powerful. It was precisely because of this that they had to express a magnanimous attitude towards others. This was also the reason why the Yi family didn't go to the Fang family to denounce them, but instead asked someone to respectfully invite elder Fang Huwei over. But Fang Yan did, that's why he had to go in. Fang Huwei said aloud. Think about it. Is my grandson Fang Yan stupid? Yi Daoling and Yi Daowen looked at each other and shook their heads. That kid was naturally not stupid. Not only was he not stupid, but he was also one of the smartest people in the world. That's why, since he is not stupid, why did he break into your Yi family's ancestral hall in the middle of the night? There must be a reason why he had to break in, right? Elder Fang Huwei said. After dinner, that kid accompanied me to enjoy the cool air in the courtyard. Suddenly, he said that he was restless, and then he strode towards your Yi family? What could make him so anxious? It must have something to do with Wenwuru's seclusion breakthrough. He came for your Wenwuru. Elder, this is too far-fetched, Yi Daoling retorted. Our Wenwuru is cultivating in seclusion and is at the critical moment of her breakthrough. Your grandson Fang Yan came to make trouble regardless of anything. According to what you said, our Yi family still owes you a big favor, right? Whether we owe a big favor or not depends on our own conscience. Elder Fang Huwei said with a smile. Our Fang family doesn't want this. I just think you are making too much of a fuss. This matter hasn't been investigated clearly yet and you are already convicting him? Yi Daowen was furious and said, Isn't this clear enough? We saw it with our own eyes clearly and clearly, what do we need to understand? Fang Huwei yawned and said, You have already tied him up. Beat, scold, kill or torture. It's up to you. I'm old and my body can't take it anymore. I'm going back to rest. After that, Fang Huwei pushed the wheelchair out. Elder, Yi Daoling called out. Fang Huwei didn't even turn his head and laughed. If you don't mind, I will find a matchmaker to propose marriage to Yi family tomorrow. Don't even think about it. Yi Daowen said in an evil tone. He was really angry. This Fang family was simply a family of scoundrels. When Fang Huwei was pushed home by a disciple, Lu Wan had already gotten dressed and was waiting in the courtyard. Since Fang Yixing left, Lu Wan's sleep was very light. She couldn't fall asleep anymore if there was any movement. Sometimes in her dreams she dreamed that Fang Yan was bullied and chased by others. He would be very nervous. When she woke up, she knew that it was just a dream, but she still felt uneasy in her heart. She sat until dawn. She guessed that Fang Yan would probably get up at this time to exercise. She would call him or send him a message, using some small topics that she had specially considered, such as the weather is going to change today, and he should pay attention to wearing more clothes. It's the winter solstice and he should remember to eat dumplings. Your grandfather has been in a bad mood recently. You should call him when you have time. She missed and worried about her son all the time. However, she couldn't let him know that she was so concerned. Lu Wan knew that Fang Yan went out in a hurry. She also thought that he was just going to drink and play with the group of children. Lu Juan was quite satisfied with her son. He was even proud of him. He had been independent since he was a child and he was smart. He could make many decisions by himself. This saved them a lot of trouble as parents. However, when the Yi family came to invite Fang Huwei to have a talk, Lu Wan had a feeling of fear. Is it, Fang Yan became enemies with the Yi family again? Lu Wan thought in her heart. Or they don't agree that Fang Yan and Ruru should be together? Lu Wan liked Yi Ruru. She could also see that Yi Ruru liked Fang Yan. Because no matter how others said that Yi Ruru was proud and indifferent, Yi Ruru was gentle and polite in front of her. Yi Ruru even tried to please her. They were both women. Wasn't her intention clear enough? But what on earth happened? Lu Wan looked at her father, Fang Huwei. She deliberately suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and asked, Dad, is Fang Yan all right? Fang Huwei sat in the wheelchair and waved his hand. He said in a low voice, Fang Yan is a bastard. He went to the Yi family and slept with the girl. Lu Wan was about to say something with worry, but she saw the irrepressible smile on Fang Huwei's face. Is he happy? You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.